Welcome back to the Comics Aficionados, live on Thinking Critical YouTube. We were having some technical difficulties behind the scenes. Gabe was chipmunking, but it was so fast you actually couldn't understand what he was saying, so we had to give him a little bit of time to get it working. But we are here. Your Saturday morning delight is good to hear to talk about some geek culture stuff. We're going to hit comic books, we're going to hit TV, we're going to hit movies, all that kind of stuff. Got a great panel for you today. First up, first time, long time, we got Dylan from the Real Comic Book Gamer. How you doing, Dylan?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back, man. Excited to talk about some comics today.
You should be in a pretty good mood. You know, Superman and Action are in pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, two of the best books at DC. It's nice.
Definitely much better than the Adventures of Superman John Kent.
That was such a waste of a storyline that we had at that first arc. Such a good premise and a horrible execution.
Didn't that feel like a bait and switch? Because it was finally going to be John confronting Ultraman, the guy that imprisoned him and aged him up 7 years and tortured him, and then he doesn't even really confront him.
Yep. It was. I was so excited to see what he was going to do with Ultraman. Then he just was like second issue, he dies. And it's like, well, here's the Injustice universe, because remember, Tom Taylor, wrote that. Remember my characters? They're back.
The ones that aren't actually his, that are just from a video game. Yeah. We all remember that.
Yeah, it felt like a Dave Filoni, like what he does with Stars, where he's like, remember my characters, the guys I wrote? There's more of them here. And that's what he did. He's like, remember my characters? Oh, that was so bad.
It was weird because John discovers that this version of his father, which isn't his dad, obviously, he's Injustice Superman, is completely evil and he's tyrannical and he treats people awful. He'll kill them for no reason. And to fight it, he just gives them a hug.
Yeah, and he has to do it. And also, I like how Injustice Superman wants to show him lost, so he breaks his not boyfriend's arm. He has no reason to not kill him. Well, how does breaking his arm show him loss at all?
It's not even his boyfriend.
Yeah, it's not his boyfriend, and his arm's gonna heal in a couple months. How's that loss?
Yeah,
he's like,
it's weird. It's like if you're dating a girl and she's got a twin, and then like someone breaks the twin's arm. They didn't disrespect you. They just disrespected her. This is not even my girlfriend. That's a twin.
Yeah, also, he's comparing that to his wife and unborn child dying. He's like, I killed them. I got brainwashed for that. He's like, I'll show you something comparable. Break someone's arm, like a random person, essentially. It's like, how's that comparable at all?
It wasn't very good.
Well, remember, Injustice Superman is exactly what John Kent wants Clark was complaining that Clark wasn't.
Yep.
Kind of. He's a man of action. He fixed everything.
Yep.
He didn't sit back and be like, well, this isn't really my country. I can't do nothing about it. I'm a stranger.
Yeah. So
exactly
I love what he wanted.
I love his comparison. Like, well, Batman, you were mean to Damian, so it's kind of comparable to Dictator Superman. You guys are basically the same. I can't step in here. I can only offer a hug. That's the best I can do right now in these trying times.
Bad. Well, at least there's other good stuff going on. You got a lot of Star Wars content coming out. I hear there's a new video game that you're probably streaming right now. It's really good.
The game that came out earlier this year, yeah, that's really good. But other than that, I wouldn't really associate good with Star Wars content. That game was really good, the Fallen Order sequel. But other than that, like everything else is just, it's not a good time to be a Star Wars fan right now.
Man, so how's the channel coming? You still streaming on Twitch and doing the videos?
Yeah, when I have time. I'm currently working on my Adventures of Superman video because I was waiting for all that to end. So, would it be? Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah, it's
I just came back for the end of it after I realized this isn't what I thought it was.
That's how. Yeah, I watched the first 3 episodes and I was like, I can't take this week to week, so I'm waiting for it to end and I'm gonna binge it all and make a video on it.
You're talking about the cartoon. I was talking about the John Kent comic book.
Oh,
yeah. So I can't put the Adventures of Superman on in my house because my kids are little want to watch it. Yeah, can't have that. So you watched the entire animated show. Everyone says it's great.
So I haven't watched the entire thing. I watched the first 3 episodes. I thought the first 2 episodes were not as horrible as everyone said. Not good and not my favorite or anything. And then episode 3 was just awful. And I was like, okay, I'll just wait until the show ends and then I'll watch it all at once. So that way I have a fresher memory on it. Because the designs in that show are some of the worst I've ever seen. The takes on the villains are so bad.
Yeah.
But
I hope
Twitter
you're ready
seems
for
like
Lois
it.
Lane to dress down Clark Kent for being selfish.
Yeah, you can't have a secret identity now. It's the worst thing of all time. You gotta tell everyone that you first meet and barely know your secret identity.
Yeah, weird stuff. Who else we got here? We got returning expat, originally from the UK, now in Japan, enjoying the One Piece live action Netflix show. Is great. How you doing, Great?
I'm doing good, thanks, Wes, and it's nice to talk about something fun, something positive for a change. But hey, that's what my channel's all about, isn't it?
Well, you gotta find what you can talk about. How's everything going on your channel, Great? You still hitting the comic books? Now you're getting into the One Piece.
Yeah, I got a couple of good reviews, I think, last week. The new Conan, of course, which we'll talk about later. Got a review of that down. And what else? I've not reviewed it, but Blade 2, Wes, really stuck out for me this week. That was a surprise. It brought sexy back to comics, and that's from Marvel. I couldn't believe it.
A lot of side boob in that comic book.
There was, wasn't there? And it was very cool as well. How cool does Blade look in there?
Absolutely. Look pretty damn good. Everything's going good in Japan?
Yeah, good, thanks. Like you talked about typhoons earlier, we had a few, but they kind of passed us. We've got a big mountain near where I live, and it kind of acts as a shield, so we're lucky with that.
Very nice. I'm on the side of the Philippine island that's like towards the mainland, like the continent of Asia. So normally we don't get flooding here, and they kind of just track towards and then zip up north to Japan.
Okay.
Skip us over. Although we've had some really, really bad ones here.
Yeah, I saw on the news. Yeah.
So it happens. Who else we got? Gabe coming in, or are you muted because you're done, or what's going on here, Gabe? I think Gabe just left.
No,
It happened again.
He's a cyber chipmunk.
Alvin.
I will translate. He just said, "I am sus Gabe. Hello." That's what he just said.
Jim, did you notice that Gabe way overvalued that Batman Catwoman issue?
Yeah, he definitely did. I talked to him on the podcast about it as well. Yeah, and I talked him down. I will tell you. I did talk him down.
Is that better? Am I back? Do I sound okay now?
Like God now.
It was okay. It gets worse with every syllable.
Oh my goodness. Come on, I'm just gonna restart. I'll join back in 2 minutes.
Now he's a robot.
All right. We're going to make fun of you for liking Batman Catwoman.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal is. Now that he's gone, we can make fun of him. He very much overvalued
the art being so bad, like, tops it off at a 5 max.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The art was so bad.
I gave it, I think on the podcast, I gave it a 5, but it was an FU 5, a very special 5 that makes it even worse because that was bad. It was really bad. The idea that, and we'll talk about it, obviously, as we go, it just had a full out, just odd premise that'll never work anyway. So
I think the premise itself actually is intriguing, but the execution's way off. But we're going to get to that, Jim.
We'll get to that. I'll tell you why I don't like
it. Did you almost leave this earth this week?
No. This week I was pretty good. I was so busy trying to scramble to get the podcast and all the shit together that I ended up, not having time to almost die. So I'm free and clear this
electrical
week.
Work?
Pretty good. No electrical work. I actually mowed the lawn, didn't run over myself, nothing like that. My wife kind of stayed away from me, so that's good too. Almost actually, I do have a story though, real quick. I ended up getting a Karen situation where I was legitimately, this lady kind of yelled at me and then got on the phone. I don't know if she was with the police or whatnot, yelling that a big black man was threatening her. And it was me, and I'm a small white guy. And I didn't understand what was going on. It made no sense whatsoever. And then the lady called my wife a whore. And then I got mad, and then I really was upset. But we had to get away from the situation.
Or were you on the phone?
No, this was out and about. This was at the grocery store in the parking lot where this lady said I cut her off and took her spot in an empty parking lot. And it was odd. It was odd. But yeah, I think she was trying to scare me off with this idea, but she actually was on the phone seemingly yelling that she was being threatened by somebody of a different race than was present. It was odd. We actually, my wife still is like shaken up by it. It was 3 days ago, I believe. It's very odd.
Shaken up by it.
So maybe I almost did die with that. I mean, I almost died of laughter afterwards. Yeah, I don't know what the hell was going on. It was very odd. And it was at Giant, our grocery store, Giant. Somebody asked if it was at Walmart. It's right next to the Walmart, though. It was.
I would have been like, "Is Weird Science Jim gonna have to slap a bitch?"
Yeah, I was. I had to. My wife pulled me away at one point, and then the lady called my wife over, and then I had to pull my wife away. Which then she got mad that I pulled her away, and then.
You should have kicked her in the cooter.
I didn't even know what was getting. It was so. It's the most bizarre story that ever. It just was odd. I'm telling you, it threw me off for a day.
You were at the dollar, like
the Dollar General.
It is
a good one. What's the dollar discount?
Dollar Tree.
Dollar Tree. You sure you weren't Dollar Tree?
Well, here's the thing. It's in a giant parking lot with like 800 different stores, and one of them is a Dollar Tree. Yeah, it's like, but a Walmart, a Giant. It was, everything was going wrong there.
Yeah,
it was bad.
Jim's life, unbelievable, isn't it? It's more exciting than most comic books these days.
Yeah, I don't even do anything. Yeah. Just sit here.
Jim, you're kind of like the one factor that's the same throughout all of this. So I would say that you do all of it.
Well, this is the thing. Since I was about 5, my nickname has been the Master of Disaster. So it just, things find me. It just ends up being odd. I try not to talk to people.
He destroys everything.
Yeah.
He's not a functioning member of society yet. He's only 2.
He'll get there.
Oh, so hopefully.
And in the Philippines, that's 5, and then you're right in, right? You're an adult. What I heard.
Well, I've definitely seen 5-year-olds with jobs here.
Yeah.
I always tell my kids, if you don't like school, I'll put you on the bonsai circuit. And the bonsai is like you pay the kid to watch your car while you go into the store, so no one, so he doesn't key it really. But so no one touches it.
I had a guy I had to pay outside of Yankee Stadium one time to do the same thing.
So it's a children's protection racket.
Yes,
they're
every
learning.
Parking lot in the Philippines, and there are not a ton of them, but when there's a parking lot, there's going to be 6 vagabond kids that demand money for you to park there.
All right,
it's called bantais. It means a bodyguard, I guess, in Tagalog, I believe. All right, last but not least, Doc, I made you read Miss Marvel and New Mutant this week. We haven't recorded that review yet. We're going to do that one tomorrow. That ought to be a lot of fun. So your week's started out well.
Yeah. Fuck you. I love you, sir. No, it was. It's going pretty good so far. I woke up and read a terrible comic because. I always like to read them first thing in the morning to improve the level of torture, get the most effect out of it for you. So no, that was a terrible comic book, and we also got to talk about how comicbook.com is essentially everybody there is a moron.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. We got a video that one will actually be out tomorrow. We do have some people speaking. Let's hear from them. Caleb says, last week, I didn't know Tom King's Catwoman hated her own daughter. That's the 4th time he's done that. So my assumptions might be true. That absolutely happens in Batman Catwoman from Tom King and Clay Mann there, Dylan, right?
I did not read that book because I tried to avoid like everything from Tom King. Yeah.
Well, just think of this one. When we yell about Gabe and this Gotham War, Tini Howard actually said that her inspiration was the Batman Catwoman book that was all full of love and hopes and dreams, and they want to make it darker because that was too nice. I'm like, I don't think she read that.
That's not what I got from that book.
No, I didn't either.
No way.
That was strange, but yeah, that was that's basically what that book's about. It skips through 3 time periods, and older. Selena and her daughter, the Huntress, I can't remember her name right now.
Helena.
They absolutely just hate each other.
It turns into Mommy Dearest is what it turns into by the end of that.
Yeah. We got
Carrie. Had to draw that.
Yeah. Well, he only had to draw half of it because he dropped out and then Clayman does. Carrie from Nerdy Girl Creates stopping by to say hi, guys. Have a great show. Hope to talk One Piece with Gray, Gabe, and Jim in the future. That would absolutely be amazing. And definitely thoughts and prayers out to Carrie, Nerdy Girl Crates. I know they were in the hospital a couple of days ago. Sounds like everything's fine, but definitely sending the best vibes that we can your way and hoping everything is going okay.
Best wishes, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Caleb says, I've heard on that She-Ra Superman Lois show, Lois is the new Amber. People are comparing her to that awful token character from Invincible.
That version of Amber is terrible. So if it's anywhere close to, I mean, Amber sucks in the comic.
Yeah.
But if they somehow actually made her 100 times worse on the TV show, so if this Lois is anywhere close to that, that is an abysmal character and should probably be nuked from orbit.
I have a feeling that Dylan's not going to like that character when he talks about the show, but we shall see. You never know. I can be wrong on these things. Caddis says, good morning, fellas. Hope everyone is well and ready for the holiday weekend. I will definitely be using it to get some writing done. It's a holiday weekend?
Labor Day.
For some of us.
It's Labor Day weekend.
There you go. There we go. Is Gabe okay now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's coming in from a cave.
Yeah, it's probably going to be echoey because I'm using a Bluetooth headset, but it's better than it was, I think.
It's definitely better than it was. Good to hear that. I didn't even realize it was Labor Day. Obviously, I don't live in the U.S. and it's not Labor Day here, but it is my anniversary weekend. On Monday is my wife and I's 8th year anniversary.
Yeah, boy.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Hey, once you make it past 7 years on your first marriage, at least, you got like a 70% chance of never getting divorced.
Yeah.
Something good like that.
Ooh.
So we're almost in the clear, right?
Almost.
I don't know. Ask Jim.
Yeah. Add
Jim,
like
you made it past 7, right?
Don't ask Jim.
Yes,
Don't
I did. Me and my wife in June celebrated our 90th anniversary. I'd like to give a shout out to her. But yeah, let me tell you, it doesn't get any easier after 7 or 8, but you kind of get used to things. I told my wife, I'm kind of just getting kind of used to her. I like having her around, is what I like to say.
I love my wife. My wife's awesome.
You talk to me in like 20 more years, and we'll see. We'll see.
There's no way. I mean, she's a bit of a ball buster, but every woman in the world is. Like, what do you not like your mom because she's a nut buster?
Well, I hate my mom, but that's beside
Wow.
that's a whole other
Sorry,
story.
I'm not trying to
That's
bring up issues here.
now you're really making me hurt inside. I didn't know this was therapy.
Oh, in that case, then why are we not having Tom King on? Because
That's what I was. Yeah,
mommy
true.
issues aficionados. Apparently.
Yeah, maybe Jim's the Tom King of comic book reviewers.
I might be, but somebody's going to say, yeah, here's that. Callum might be right on it because sometimes my kids aren't really on the top of my list either.
I don't think he hates his kids. I just think he's got a lot of emotional stuff that he decides to get out in his writing and burden everyone else with.
Here's the thing. He ends up where I said it all along that he kills kids in comics. I think that that's his only way to try to grab any emotional connection or feel.
Maybe that's the only thing that he could imagine being sad over.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
To lean on the crutch because he likes his kids so much.
I just think Tom King's a bitch.
That's true.
This is a good one. We got Jim's left nipple. My goodness, Jim, you are really taking over the channel here.
I am. What's happening?
What is the best era of Superman comics? I'm currently reading the Triangle era. Me personally, this is just my own personal opinion. I love Superman. There's some great stuff out there, but just to be a Superman fan during DC Rebirth, you get a Superman Action Comics. Peter J. Tomasi, Dan Jurgens they're both really, really, really good series. And then you get a third Superman series, Super Sons, that comes out after that, also written by Peter J. Tomasi. Jorge Jimenez is on that one. Fantastic artists across the board. Who's the guy on Superman? Patrick Gleason.
Yeah,
so he's the other guy. And I think that is a phenomenal era of Superman comics just because there was so much of it and it was all good. But I will give this one over to Dylan because you are the Superman guy. What is the best Superman era?
I think in terms of overall quality, I think you're right. That was the best era because we had on Action Comics, we had Dan Jurgens, then we had Pete Tomasi on Superman, and then we had him also on Super Sons and then Patrick Gleason. And just the quality everywhere was so good that you knew it was going to explode eventually with what we got. But for me, my personal overall favorite era is probably John Byrne's run during that time when you then had Marv Wolfman also writing Superman. You had a lot of great stuff then. And then also I loved the whole era with Jeff Johns in like the mid to late 2000s. That part was amazing.
Superman Up and Away. I think that's my favorite Superman stories.
Yeah.
That is agreed. That's my favorite. And we have Superman Last Son during that time, Superman Legion of Superheroes, Superman Secret Origin. You had so many great stories from that time.
And Mark Miller would tell you it's the Cary Bates era of Superman. That's his favorite.
Yeah, I listened to that.
That was pretty good. Jim's right nipple continues. What comic book runs do you guys love rereading? I'm currently rereading New Teen Titans. So you're going back to Marv Wolfman, George Perez. There's nothing wrong with that. That is one of the greatest runs in comic book history. Just to go back and reread, I still do love Robert Venditti's Exo Man of War. It starts out with Kerry Nord on the art. And there's always good artists on that one. That's a really great 50-issue run, and that series in particular means a ton to me. So that's definitely my go-to. What's your go-to, Gray? What do you love rereading?
I'm really enjoying rereading Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, Animal Man, and Invisibles at the moment. But I'm forcing Jim to join me on that journey, and I don't know if he's enjoying it or not.
He's forcing me.
Yeah.
My goodness, Jim, what's your go-to?
I don't know. Right now, I've really been enjoying going back and reading a lot of the Mark Miller stuff, just, kind of tying that stuff in, but also the Robert Kirkman deal. I just started reading the Oblivion Song and also do like The Walking Dead, but like DC are big too. I actually go and reread events more than just entire runs. Like I actually just did, Darkest Night and stuff like that and just stuff. I don't know.
And I hope when you get to Oblivion Song, issue number 12, I wonder if you have the same reaction I do.
Okay. I'll let you know because I just started reading it for the first time. It's not really a reread, but I've really been enjoying it so far.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah. Then who else we got here? Dylan, what's your favorite run to reread?
I love going back to reread Jeff Loeb's Superman Batman. I love that stuff. Like it's so nostalgic for me to go back and read that. And then also Rick Remender's X-Force is really fun to go back and reread as well.
Uncanny X-Force is absolutely amazing.
It's so good.
That's the best
One of the best
Deadpools
Deadpools.
ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So good.
Yeah.
And the art is amazing on that one.
Oh, it's fantastic for most of it.
Yeah. Doc, yours is Claremont's Uncanny X-Men?
I'd say
the Authority.
I'd say actually X-Men from giant sized all the way up to just shy of issue 400. So
8
Claremont,
years is your reread.
No, it's way longer than that. It's actually closer to 20 years, 20
years is your reread.
25 years, but also because it's 220 comics, 200 comics, then or 300 comics, then also Wildcats from volume 2 all the way through a little after, basically through Worldstorm and the Ellis era of Stormwatch up through the Authority. And I always skip Authority Volume 2 because it's terrible. And then go to Authority Revolution, and then Coup d'etat, and again up till Worldstorm, and that's when everything goes sideways because fuck Grant Morrison.
There we go. How about we've got Gabe bouncing in and out. Do you have a go-to reread there, Gabe?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So 2 eras in particular that I enjoy rereading, at least for Spider-Man, just from issue 1 all the way going back to the very beginning. Those first 10 or 12 issues are just phenomenal because they really set the stage for everything that Marvel does after that. And as a part B or just later down on the line, X-Men Claremont's run pretty much for most of the 80s, in fact, I think is just, I can pick any issue out of that run, out of that time frame, and just enjoy it, regardless of where it falls in a particular arc. Every single one of them just lands for me in just the right way.
Very nice. There you go. Good question, Jim. I definitely want to give a shout out to AL. She's back in the house, returned from Paris to celebrate her anniversary. We're not quite as adventurous as they are, but she was rubbing it in last week.
There's an
that was all
Eiffel
fun.
Tower joke about in
I'm
here,
not.
but
We're
I'm
not doing that
gonna
on
skip
AL,
it.
Doc. We get out of here. First thing we are going to talk about is the latest issue of. Well, I guess it's not the latest issue. It's the opening salvo of Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War. I had issues with you, Gabe. Here, well, you call this one a 6 out of 10, which means it's above average, right?
Okay.
How did you get to above average?
So we
Terrible
break it
taste.
down. We break it down in chunks. So you basically have 5 for art and 5 for writing. There's different people do it different ways, but that's how I do it. So if you want to think about it that way, really, it's more like 4 for the art and 1.5 to 2 for the story and the writing. And the only reason I give the writing that much credit is because there is a central idea in the middle of that introduction to the event, which is the Gotham War event, that I like. I like the idea of Batman being challenged, that the way he is chosen to become a protector and rid Gotham City of crime may not be the best way. And that maybe there's somebody figures out a different way to do it that forces him to confront his worldview and his level of certainty, which is kind of a mainstay of his personality and his character. So I like the idea of somebody saying, hey, you've been doing it wrong the whole time, and forcing him to confront himself. So I like the idea. The execution is horrendous. It's actually horrible. But I like that. So I like the idea of what they're trying to get to. I don't like how they got there. So I give them a little bit of credit for coming up with the idea, just not the execution.
Gabe, I have to ask. I'm not really caught up on the story and whatnot and the premise. You know, that's personal choice. How in the fuck do you give the art a 4 in this?
I don't get it either, man.
The art is at best a 1.25.
Some pages look terrible. I'll give you that. Some pages look terrible. Some look okay. So I try to give the artist a little bit more leeway, understanding that not every panel is going to be perfect.
Okay, that's
like those Catwoman panels. You're right. The Catwoman panels look terrible. The Catwoman panels look terrible.
Look, if
the capes look weird for some reason.
If it was penciled by a kindergartner, yeah, sure, 4, because they're a kindergartner. This is an actual professional commercial artist.
Mike Hawthorne's past his prime, which is unfortunate.
Maybe I'm too generous. Maybe I'm too kind.
I think you are too kind. Dylan, did you get to read this bad boy?
I did, sadly. It was not a good time.
My favorite part is the statistics. So Mr. Freeze and the Riddler and the Joker, they all have these groups of criminals, and they work together to go commit a crime, like to go rob a bank or whatever. Let's say you got 5 guys working for you. And then so the way that they reduce crime is to remove the 5 henchmen from the leading criminal, take them under Catwoman's umbrella. She taught them to be super criminals themselves, to go be cat burglars, and then go commit crimes individually. But that somehow decreased crime by 75% rather than increasing it by 400%.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a proved crime. It's okay. They're only hurting rich people, and rich people aren't people, so it's fine.
It's women math.
It's they essentially turned her into the argument that's on Twitter all the time. Like, this is what you'll see from people on Twitter. Like, some commie on Twitter will be talking with a very similar way that Catwoman is. When I was reading this, the thought that popped in my head was like, man, when did Catwoman become so lame? I remember when Catwoman was cool, and now she's just not. And her doing this,
point. I'll tell you, one of the times when Tini Howard started writing her, that might have been one of the biggest times. And my big thing, I was reading it, I'm like, what the hell's the GCPD doing? If you end up just having normal crime, get the police out there and stop something. They're doing nothing.
What's the Bat family doing? Batman was asleep for 8 weeks. Every criminal changed their modus operandi, and they never noticed.
Nope. They didn't notice that the henchmen were being hired. They didn't actually set up a plan. Hey, Batman's asleep. Let's get shifts going and watch it. Well, and also we didn't know, because you end up starting out with just Selina controls the city, which is so ridiculous. And the amount of time, because Batman was taking a nap. It's so bad.
I think the premise. Okay.
I just need to interject here. Everything about this is what's wrong with modern comics.
No,
in
no,
that
what's wrong with modern comics
any
is, Doc, you didn't read it, and which isn't fair because the other 5 of us had to read this crap. You should have read every freaking page of it because it sucks.
Any amount, even 1 second of critical thought on the premise of and the plot points of this comic make it fall apart like a house of cards. That is the problem.
No, the premise works. What if Catwoman solved crime in 8 weeks, which Batman couldn't do in 40 years? What would that do to
I mean, if they had gotten to that point logically, that's the idea that I like. If they had gotten to it logically, the problem is they don't. There's several problems that go on. There's several problems that go on with this. First of all, the 8-week period, you're right. The GCPD do nothing. The Bat family does nothing. The mobsters and the super criminals do nothing. They just let Selina do whatever she wants to do.
Joker's like, I guess I can't do nothing.
Yeah, right.
Gotham was burning at the end of Night Terror, so they never explained how that got fixed all of a sudden. You don't know what happened to Failsafe. He just sort of disappeared, even though Gotham was under a Failsafe control.
He's working with Catwoman. He's a burglar now.
He's just not doing anything. And so you have all these different components that come together that they should have used his first issue to explain what happened during that 8-week gap, and they didn't do it. And that was the biggest mistake of everything. The other problem that you have is, right, most of the philosophical, societal underpinnings of this comic are basically Twitter speak. Batman, why aren't you spending your money to help social programs? Why are you beating up?
He doesn't have money though, so it's even wrong.
Criminals giving,
but it's worse because Dick does have the money. Dick Grayson does have the money, but Selina never goes to him to figure it out. You never see. It's okay to rob rich people because the only way that they can be rich is because they're evil. That's across the board. Apparently, that's the explanation there. 75% of crime goes down, but they're justifying it by saying it's violent crime. So robbing somebody's penthouse, even though they might be there or not, is not a violent crime. So that's okay.
Do they not have security guards? They're billionaires.
Every single person.
They got hired by Catwoman.
Every single person is forgetting that the math and statistics being done here is someone who plays with tarot cards. Yeah. That is the problem. You have math and statistics and economics being done by somebody that plays with fucking tarot cards. Fuck off, Tini Howard. Go write a goddamn fucking Dungeons and Dragons comic. Get out of here, bitch.
No, but so take a step back. You could hear it a little bit when we were talking to the story. And Jim and I recorded a full-length review on this yesterday, so that'll be short out soon. Follow Weird Science.
It will not, Gabe.
Oh, damn it. Okay, fine. What is the social message? You could definitely clearly tell that Howard and Zdarsky were trying to pull out some kind of social message in that. And we figured it out yesterday. It is a pro-union socialism message. Essentially what Selina has done is she has created a henchman union. Actually, so they get better benefits, they get better money, they get better training, and as long as they only rob rich people and then give Selina a cut to pay her dues to the union boss, then everything is cool. It's a pro-union message.
It's actually a pro-Second Amendment message because when they break into your house, you shoot them in the head.
Yeah, that happens. And here's what I said to you earlier, Wes, where the premise I don't like. And the premise, I'm going with the idea that you know that Batman's not going to go for this. He's not going to change. He's not going to end up allowing crime, even though what happens is funny because remember in that Batman Fortress or whatever the hell that nonsense was, he did watch crime going on and turn the other way because those are rich people with insurance. So it kind of gets swirled around. But Batman's not going to go with this, and all this is to set up that the Bat family's going to be against Batman. They're all going to turn him, and it's very contrived. No, and it's nonsense. And the idea that you don't see Selina set it up, and even just the general deal, it might be interesting to some. I don't want to see Batman be somebody write Batman where I just have fun reading Batman, and it's not people upset. And the people who write Batman now, everybody who seems to write Batman seems to want to show you how bad Batman is or why he doesn't work or why you shouldn't like him instead of actually having fun with the damn character. He's the most popular character in comics, but they're embarrassed to actually like him because it goes against all their views of how somebody should be. Please have some fun. Get somebody to do it.
Guys,
I'm going to spoil tease it a little bit. So I've already read issue Batman 137, which is coming out this coming week. The review's already written on that one. If you thought the Bat family seemed out of character and reacted weird in the prologue issue, times 10 times 10 in Batman 137. You will lose your mind
So this is-
over how the whole Bat family reacts to the situation. It is crazy.
It's one thing for the Bat family to say, listen, you know what? Selena has a point. We're not going to go there because it's bullshit. But hey, Batman, maybe we could work some things out. Maybe you look at that. But no, it's just going to be clear cut. Oh, I'm going to go with Selena because she just robs rich people. And the Batman yells, my parents were rich.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, that was my favorite part.
All right.
My parents were rich, Selena.
That's the weirdest thing about the comic, Dylan. I can tell you every single page that Chip Zdarsky wrote, and I can tell you every single page that Tini Howard wrote.
Yeah, you can definitely tell the quality difference. And it's
Chip is writing a Batman of Zur-En-Arr story, and she's writing the Catwoman is the Queen of Gotham story.
And I love if you think about Catwoman's plan for 2 seconds, it just falls apart. How long until one of those people becomes rich after stealing so much, and then they're getting stolen from? That's only a matter of time till that happens.
These are bad guys, right?
Yeah, be nice to each other. They're just going to give money to charity.
It's the theft-based economy. That's what it is.
The single dad criminal is generally the exception to the rule, but in this, they're all that. They're all just single moms and dads that really need help supporting their kids. There's none of those henchmen that were like, I want to kill the Bat. There's none of those guys anymore.
At the beginning, there are those two guys that Batman ends up trying to catch, and they say we shouldn't be going this far. We're overstepping things. They're already doing things that Selena told them not to, and they get away. But still, it's nonsense. And you have these social issues. You're not going to be able to solve them in a comic book. Stop. Just tell stories.
Remember, it's just people that need milk and bread. I mean, I don't know what recipes there are for a Ferragamo bag, but sure, I guess that's dinner too.
There's kind of a setup. Oh, you go, Dylan. You go. Sorry.
You think Selena would be smarter and know Gotham better than to think that these are all just great people that just need help?
She's being written by a person that plays with tarot cards.
And that's the thing. Selena doesn't know because she was just in prison and had a prison break and just got everybody out. They're in prison for a reason. But of course, everybody in Selena's prison and Tini Howard's ideas, everybody in prison is innocent. They're just there because some weird circumstance, but she broke them all out. And so she doesn't. She has no idea. She thinks that. I think Tini Howard,
the Joker's crew.
Yeah.
Joker didn't do
and I
nothing
think Tini Howard's going to say to you, well, these criminals, if they just had a fair shake, they'll end up being better. But a fair shake isn't letting them go and steal from rich people. These rich people should pack up their shit and get out of Gotham. The whole place will fall apart.
Just wait. I'm waiting for the street shitting issue, because it's essentially. Gotham is now San Francisco, and Portland, where they just don't prosecute theft anymore. So sure, what, homeless street shitting, fucking socialist utopia. Go you, Tini.
So great. Bitch. God damn it, dude! Shut up, man. You haven't even read the fucking comic book. Great. So she's obviously trying to paint Catwoman as Robin Hood. But I don't think Tini Howard and Chip Zdarsky understand that Robin Hood wasn't just going out and arbitrarily stealing from rich people. It was feudalistic times to where you had to pay the Lord for protection, all that stuff. And he was just taking back the taxes that the people had taken from them because they were tyrannical and giving it back to them so they could live. Like Robin Hood just wasn't going out and robbing people because he could. Like he was trying to help people out that were being screwed.
Yeah, there was good reasoning behind it. Like you say, they were being overtaxed, they were being manipulated by the Lord, so that's why he started it, supposedly. But it feels like, I don't know, you've already said it, Tini Howard has got a clue what she's doing. What I want to imagine is, can you imagine the writing room? Like, how are they even doing this as co-writing it? Did they just write their own part separately? Because they have to be. There can't be any collaboration with this.
I think Tini sits in a really large room and just listens to her echo come back, and hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Just says, hey, it's a good idea. Good idea. Oh, all right, I'm going to write that shit. And it's funny when we talked about that jarring deal. It's one of the few comics that I've read that it almost felt like, everybody has an art change that's jarring, but a writing change is rarely this jarring, where you're like, holy crap, what the hell happened here? And really, Selena... It has a new name. It's Catwoman greatest criminal in the world. It just keeps being pushed out there. And Tini Howard's another one of those lame writers that cannot figure out how to elevate a character that shouldn't need to actually be elevated anyway. The only way she could do it is by actually just pronouncing it. It's like the whole Miss Marvel stuff and whatever, but also making other characters around her lessen. Because Jason Todd comes in and gets the crap kicked out of him by Catwoman. Catwoman, it just goes back. I think that Tini Howard, when she mentioned that the thing that they were reading to get ready for this was that Bat Cat book by Tom King, but also that idea in Tom King's run, you ended up having Selina pick up a sword for the first time and fight Talia and win. This is nonsense. This stuff has to end, and this could be a really interesting story, but it won't because Tini Howard is involved, and even the stuff with Chip Zdarsky, he gets a bit surface level with these politics and social issues. And again, there's always been politics and social issues in comics, but it's not the main thing that is so clunky that it throws everything off.
When it takes over the story, when you lose sight of the story and the characters, that's where you just go in wrong.
I mean, when you sit there and read this issue and you think, okay, what if Batman did agree? Like the whole concept, and that's why I don't like the concept at all, where Batman says, you know what, you're right. Then we have a Batman run that all it is Batman driving through the street, seeing shit going on and just keep on rolling. He won't do anything. It'll just turn and then
goes on a holiday, a vacation.
It just doesn't make sense. So if the actual what she wants, the solution, doesn't make sense at all to me, then why do it? And it is, to me, just to rip apart the Bat family when you were just getting them back together. We had that whole play where Bruce Wayne, Batman's like, you know what, I've been doing this alone. I need some help. And it was really getting to be a point where, okay, that's cool, especially getting back to the Dawn of DC. You really could have had it. You have a Batman and Robin book coming up, and now we're just going to rip
Maybe that's
everything
the aim,
apart.
Jim. Sowing division, like you say, in the family.
And Damian will never go with Selina. He hates her, so he'll be with Batman. And maybe that's the play. They can't figure out a way to really make Batman and Damian tight, because father and son isn't enough. So they have to rip everybody else. It's bullshit. It's terrible.
Well, the way they're setting this up is they're making it incredibly unbelievable that the Bat family would react as positively to Selina as they do. So the only reason I can foresee in my mind that would play out to some logical conclusion that would be a status quo change would be if Batman essentially, he comes out victorious, he wins the day, and he says, I trained you to look out for the little guy, or I trained you to stop crime. And when you had the chance, you turned your back on it. You are banished from Gotham, or you're banished from being a member of the Bat family, or something like that. Maybe that's the eventual goal. So they just needed to come up with some excuse to do that, because the heel turn from the Bat family, the way it's been set up here, is ridiculously over the top.
It is. And seriously, one of the things that I wish happened, I wish that if they are going to rip I agree with Catwoman. I have this be the one story that Jason Todd actually stands with Batman and says, this is bullshit. I'm with you, Batman, so they could get back together and fully bring him back. But again, it's the generic, there goes Jason. Jason, nice, the bad guy. He's it's just nonsense. It sucks. I read it and just got angry. And then I talked about it with Gabe and got angrier. Gabe gave it a 6.
Well,
I brought him down.
He gets
he brought me down a bit.
Ass whooped and still wants to be the inside man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we started script doctoring a little bit, and they said there were just so many different ways you could have done this. You could have said something like, he's got this robot hand. Maybe he gets in a fight and he winds up accidentally killing Marquis because he's got this robot hand who he hasn't adapted to, doesn't know the strength of, and now he's at odds not only with Selina because Marquis is like her henchman or girlfriend, but at the same time that puts him at odds with the Bat family because now he's killed a person. He broke his own rule. And the Bat family is trying to say, now you have to turn yourself in. And he's like, but if I turn myself in, I can't protect Gotham. And so you create this moral conundrum that you got to work your way. Now, that would have been interesting. That would have been a way to set him at odds with both the criminals and the Bat family.
That's
and then you have to find your way out of it.
Already.
That would have been a much more interesting idea. But this is just so heavy-handed. It is so dripping with Twitter social issues and the whole Batman, why don't you spend your money helping people argument? It falls apart.
I'm telling you, how about this? You end up out of fear state. Batman falls asleep for 2 months. He wakes up and nobody's done anything different, but crime's down. And it makes Batman then actually think, shit, is this worse? Am I making it worse?
We all agree that you can't sleep for 2 months?
No, you can't sleep.
It's a coma.
Now, I love that they said that. They say at one point Leslie Tompkins came in. What the hell is she gonna do? There's a guy in a coma. What's she gonna try to do some therapy with him? Like, hey, tell me what you think. Oh, he's still sleeping. I'm out of here.
It's
It's
clearly got
ridiculous.
other issues. Look at him. He won't even wake up.
No, and then yeah, really, I don't think he likes me. And then when he wakes up, you're gonna have issue. Like, if you're gonna be realistic, you don't just wake up after 2 months and
He's
start
got to
swinging
train again. He's
through
got
the
to build back his
city.
muscles, his muscle
Just
man.
nonsense. Yeah.
Crazy.
Unless this, it's too late to change what's already been. But how do you work going forward? I could foresee where this could turn out okay if they basically
Fire Tini Howard. Oh
no. Well, yeah, but that it's all in his mind. That Zurinar is still in control of his mind, and he doesn't realize it.
We've had so many. The thing about it, again, that would be a story that we've seen over and over. But we also this is two comic book writers trying to play and try to be clever with that concept that we hear all the time. Batman makes his own villains. Batman ends up making Gotham worse. And I don't need a rehash of an old trope that people, joke about at the comic book store. I want a story. And none of this makes sense. It's a horrible setup. It doesn't make any damn sense because the Bat family's just sitting on their hands. Selina's doing this stuff, but it just is, it's bad. And so maybe it'll get better, but I doubt it.
You know what the thing that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me is it's the same exact week that Night Terrors finally ends. And it's like, why are we just doing event after event? And it's not like Night Terrors was any good, Gabe. I didn't even read the finale because I saw your response to it. I was like, I guess whatever.
I was, if you read the review on the very last line, I said this and I meant it because it's true. DC owes everyone who spent money on Night Terrors an apology. That is probably one of the worst endings I've ever read in my life. None of the stuff that was set up paid off. The rules were inconsistent from one issue to the next, written by the same writer who was the architect of the thing, Joshua Williamson. And then the ending is basically like this split of different ideas trying to set up other things. Like Wonder Woman says, the Amazons there's an unrest about the Amazons in Washington, D.C. That came out of nowhere. And all it's doing is setting up Tom King's event.
So clunky, wasn't it, Gabe? Yeah.
It was so clunky. And then they're setting up it was not Beast Wars. It's
Dr. Hayton Beast World.
Dr. Hayton Beast World. All it is was just an ending to set up other things. And there was no payoff for anything that was.
And everyone hates the Justice League, so the Titans are the number one team.
And what's weird about the way the finale ended, which is Deadman basically, he goes into the light and he takes Insomnia with him. Well, that means he could have done that the entire time. There was no point to the entire event. He could have done that right from the beginning and be done with it.
Yeah.
What's the point?
He even goes in, he goes into the light with the Nightmare Stone, and then suddenly at the end, Amanda Waller's like, luckily we found that Nightmare Stone during the chaos. Like, really? Like that big thing that you're talking about here, you're like, bullshit. Yeah, it was bad.
But it only took one day.
Horrible. It was horrible. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed for DC.
So if Batman woke up already from his coma that was induced by going into the light with insomnia.
No, that was Deadman.
It was Deadman.
Batman passed out because he was so tired for all the things that happened, including Deadman taking over his body. But the weird play is that they really kept pushing that Night Terrors was just one night, and then you're like, really? I mean,
at the end, that
Batman.
was crazy. It all took one night, Wes. Everything was just one night. So what?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Batman stayed up at least a full night before.
Well, but Doc, he was tired from jumping off the moon. I mean, that takes a lot out of you when you jump off the moon.
That was a great comment.
Well, you get like Nightfall or whatever, and he literally is driven to his end. Like he literally has no more energy, but he's still fighting. Yeah, and it's a really cool concept. And then you can see what happens when someone takes a cool concept and this ruins it.
Yeah.
Like, he would sleep for 8 weeks.
One of the best things in the Night Terrors Night's End is when Mr. Terrific comes and evaluates Batman. He's like, he's sleeping now. He'll probably wake up, but I don't know when. And that was it. That was his official opinion of it. I'm like, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the info.
Thanks, Doc. Not you, Doc.
Did you get to read the end of that one, Dylan? Or did you check out all Night Terrors?
I read the end, but I didn't read anything else from Night Terrors because I thought the whole event looked dumb. But I read the ending, and I was right. It was dumb. Everything, as someone who didn't read any of the build-up, it felt like it wrapped up really fast. Like it just felt like each page, it just like kept addressing things, and they're like, okay, Night Terrors is done. on to the next thing. When Night Terrors was announced, it didn't excite me in any way at all. I did not care. It sounded like one of the lamest events, and now we're on to a new event. So
you're not excited for Beast World?
No, not at all.
Hey,
So dumb.
Remember like 2 weeks ago, whenever there was that article on CBR about how DC is not just doing events and you could just read the books that you're reading. Yeah, that worked for like what 3 months, and now it's just now they're in full Marvel mode. Just one event leads to the next event to the next event. You are never getting your monthly like solo books back ever. And sorry, fuck you.
Yeah, and the worst part of that, we were talking about how Night Terrors ended up kind of taking the momentum of Dawn of DC away. So when you get done Night Terrors, you should at least give a couple months of your biggest book, Batman, in just a solo book, so that people who may have, the 5 people who jumped on with Night Terrors can actually then go to the biggest book that you produce and actually have some fun, not have to, because this whole Gotham War really was set up mostly in the Catwoman book. And so you don't want people to have to go and read that one. Yeah. So why jump out of a 2-month event into your biggest book where they then feel like they're left behind? It's ridiculous.
Because it would mean admitting that it's a way to try to make Tini important and her book important, because it can't do it on its own. So it's just they're gonna coattail ride whatever they can into making her matter when she'll never matter.
No, and it's like Usain Bolt comes to me and we're going to do a race, and me and him race, we're going to lose. I'm slow as hell. It's like you're going to end up just everything's going to be pulled down by the weakest, link, which is Tini Howard.
You're giving Chip Zdarsky way too much goddamn
well, he's not the Usain Bolt, but I'm saying, but
he's like the rank 50th college runner.
Well, actually, Josh,
that guy is.
I was underplaying myself. I'm pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, compared to there's no question in my mind that Zdarsky's a better writer than Tini Howard. I have no compunction about saying that. Comic book.
Well, yeah,
but his Batman is his opportunity to be A-list. He did a lot of good work on Daredevil. It's not perfect, but he did a lot of good work on Daredevil. So when it was announced that he was put on Batman, I heard a lot of people say, when he was put on Batman, I heard a lot of people say, "Oh, okay, that's good," because he knows how to do street level. He knows how to do gritty crime noir kind of stuff. That's going to be a good shot in the arm for Batman coming off of whatever Marika Tamaki was doing. So then when we get to this, Failsafe was a good start. I'm interested. Failsafe, great. Let's do more of that. And then the whole thing just fell apart, and he has not recovered.
Well, again, street level, he had him jump off the moon.
Yeah,
he's so into trying to do Grant Morrison stories again, and Tamaki was on Detective. It was Joshua Williamson who did that forgettable run.
Backdog was a big mistake. As soon as he did that, everything just fell off a cliff.
But that's what he seemed to want to do. I actually wasn't that upset about Backdog just because we'd had a Batman who was doing shit for 5-10 years. Like the whole Tom King run, it was Selina doing everything, but he took it a little too far. Overall,
it was ridiculous.
And apparently that wasn't even his idea, the Batman from the moon.
But look, I mean, Chip Zdarsky, of course he's better than Tini. So am I, and I don't even write anything.
And you don't own tarot cards.
I don't.
Sure? He's better than Josh Williamson, I would say too.
Yeah,
at least it was an upgrade, sort of. Maybe.
Yeah, he can maybe sort of finish a story, kinda. But look, you haven't really had anybody that was on. You don't have an A-list writer anymore. I mean, at best, Chip Zdarsky's B list, maybe.
Not that. Never had a hit
at
series.
Best. I mean, yeah, and he's better than Tini because people have actually bought a comic with his name intentionally, which is something that Tini can never say. So it's really not that big of an accomplishment, though. You're just the least stinky turd in the pile. So look,
but who at DC would you give credit to saying, consistently, they may not be the fantastic writer, but they're pretty good. Right now, I can think of Mark Waid and maybe Jeremy Adams.
Jeremy Adams.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Well, but Diddy's
I
about
can't
to
think
do
of anybody
Superman 78 part 2, so maybe he's still a
And
decent
he has a
writer.
Sandman book coming up.
Is he doing the
so-
Sandman one? Yeah.
Yeah,
Ben Diddy.
he'll have that coming up.
Well,
Rather
I-
than small art.
He's a good writer, but why are they putting him on niche titles? I mean, Superman 78 was well received on the first arc, but give him something a little bit more mainstream than
Yeah,
the new
exactly.
Well, yeah, Green Lantern, it was awesome.
stuff.
Yeah.
That was a while ago.
I guess my point is you could have left Chip Zdarsky and he could have probably grown into the role given time, but they're not giving him time. They're slapping him into this Night Terrors event immediately where Batman's central to the event because it's a DC event, so Batman has to be central to the event. Then they're teaming him up with a giant anchor in Tini, so he's not going to. I mean, I guess it's like weight training and resistance training for writing. But I mean, look, you can let him do the solo book for a while and leave him alone. That's the point.
We got to do events apparently. So I would say that it has not started out very well. Let's hear from the peoples. They've had some things to say. Kenneth says, I'm enjoying rereading my Masterworks Amazing Spider-Man Volume 22 and 23 by Roger Stern. Great stuff. Spider-Man at his best. JRJ, best work in my opinion.
I'd say it's pretty up there. I mean, it's I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed that portion of Amazing Spider-Man. So yeah.
Absolutely. Good call there, Kenneth. Caleb says, isn't the book just the writers venting their envy that they're not rich? And I'm surprised Tini boring ass didn't write about validation in food.
Give it more than one issue.
There is validation. Even at one point, Red Hood's like, Bruce, she's right. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
The whole book was validating
And
validating Selena and somehow everybody deciding that.
Well, it wasn't everybody.
At one point, that Marquise goes, Selena, you're the greatest criminal mastermind of the world.
Yeah,
So it did happen,
Look, even Spoiler was validating. The criminals would never go back to work for Joker because they got a great deal with Catwoman. She's way better.
That's the thing. Even when they weren't validating and saying that Selena was right and Bruce was wrong, they were still giving Selena credit for reducing the amount of violent crime.
Yeah, well,
that's it. That's all. I mean, and we're not even sure that they've reduced that.
Yeah. I did like it. The one
there's
scene.
At least one person or two that decided to fight back against people stealing their shit.
The one guy got the letter late. Yeah. I like that at one point they're training all these, henchmen and criminals, and they're really training them. It looks like combat training, but the whole play is that they end up where it's going to be nonviolent crime. They're boxing, they're punching and kicking and whatnot. It's ridiculous. Lady Clayface.
Albatross. Catwoman complained all the crab away.
Well, I mean, she's Rachel Maddow in this comic, so sure.
So Dylan, didn't you like the part where she told Bruce that he's the reason they didn't get married because he was too obsessed with his cars and all that stuff? And you're like, bitch, you're the one that left him at the altar.
Yeah, it was all his fault, and there's always three of them two, and then his mission. And now she's like, I played the field and I have my own mission. Thought that was such a good line. It was so dumb.
So Tini Howard, it's not even funny.
To play Batman for how that relationship went down is very funny.
Yeah. Getta says, I have a question. What the heck happened to Chip Zdarsky? His work on Batman, except 135, has been crap. I had one time said he would become one of the great writers in comics. Man, I feel like a fool. You're not the only one. I thought he was going to be the guy, especially after Spectacular Spider-Man. Then I thought his work on Daredevil was even better, or just as good, if not better. Then he had, was it the Defenders? No, it wasn't Defenders. It was the
Invaders, which was
Invaders.
really good at the start.
Yeah. Absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
He even does an event at Marvel that isn't bad when you get to Devil's Reign. Yeah. Failsafe was good, and then he just stopped being good.
Chip Zdarsky is a competent, serviceable writer who, when he's not trying to be funny, can bring you an entertaining book on a regular basis. He's not a genius. He isn't super creative. He would give you what in the 1980s and honestly even most of the 90s would have been a solid medium selling book. That's what you get. And you know what? He never would have, if he was in the industry in the night, if you time traveled him back to the 1990s, he wouldn't even sniff Shadow of the Bat, much less Detective Comics or Batman. He'd be on like
the writing Robin.
He'd have been on like the 4th or 5th tier Batman book. And that's fine. But he's only on Batman through entropy in the, you know, in the industry.
Yeah, he's the best option they had left. Rate X7. The story would have made more sense if Catwoman had those henchmen stealing from the rich criminals. Great. I say it would have made more sense if she said, you can only steal from the government. We're only taking the taxes back from the tax collectors. They're not protecting the city. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that would be a much better move, but that's just not going to happen, is it? It's so much easier to blame the supposed rich white guy, isn't it, at the moment?
I think they're just robbing from every rich person, just for the fact that they're wealthy.
They're not exactly defining rich either. Pretty sure.
It's just like here's another thing that just bothers me is the premise of the story and the things that they're showing as being successful do undermine Batman himself.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that he protects his mother's pearls rather than let people just have them because he's got so much that those really shouldn't mean anything to him. You're rich. People should be able to take from you. And it's like, I've seen Batman almost beat people to death over that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that say about him?
And Wes, you're right. If she actually had him steal from the government, there you go with the Robin Hood idea. You could even make that a clever tie. And even though Selina was in jail for like a hot week and a half, she could end up saying, I had to break out of jail because I saw how corrupt that was. You can even tie it into that nonsense in the Nightwing book and actually make it work a lot better. And then you have that, let's get back to taxes. It's overtaxed, all this stuff. Let's take it back. And that would make
you would
a lot
put
more
Batman
sense.
in a really weird position.
Yeah, because he would. Yeah, exactly.
That would be.
You know, I'm a city leader. You know, I got the police commissioner. I got the mayor on my back saying, hey, we're losing all these funds. What are we going to do? Can you help out? And it's like.
Yeah, and you could tie so much. That Mayor Nakano, that guy's asleep at the job. But the idea that they just ended up raising up that Arkham Tower and all this stuff that they're doing that causes more problems, you could rail on that instead of railing on Batman.
What did that Arkham Tower cost? Like $5 billion? What a waste of taxpayer money.
I'm sure.
But the Orgams paid for that. If it's part of the same continuity, it's this family from Europe that came.
No, that's a different tower. That's not the Arkham Tower. That's
the
their
Tower.
own.
You're right.
That was the Orgam place that they never explained what it actually.
People
was.
are still reading Detective.
You know why they don't do this? Because it's written by people that think that the government actually solves problems. Yeah. That's the reason. They think that taxes and your tax money going to the government is good, regardless of how, obviously it's not good for poor people, but for everyone else, it's super good that the government is getting as much money from you as possible because they do good. That's the reason why you have a bunch of people that actually believe the government is a positive influence writing these fucking books. It's really not rocket surgery.
Well, I don't think the idea ever occurred to them because I just don't believe they understand Robin Hood.
I don't think they get that far up. They have found problems where problems don't exist before they even get to the government. I mean, they're seeing ghosts all over the place.
Howard's entire thing, I'm going to say it's Howard and Zdarsky, but I strongly suspect this is mostly Howard driving this. It's basically dollar bin socialism. That's what it is. I'm redistributing wealth for people who need it.
That's it. Now, remember, this is a writer. This is a writer who thinks that somebody who goes to prison can then have a cat deliver ramen noodles through the vents to her while she's in solitary confinement.
That's one of your favorite moments.
This is never going to work. Even at the beginning of this issue, a cat, you have the carrier pigeon cat show up with a little note. Like, she's insane. She has no idea how anything works, so I'm not going to even think that this will make sense.
Yep. Very nice. We got HH and the guys from Sigma Comics. Shout out to the Thinking Critical team and support these great guys. Comics is an American treasure, despite how some have treated it. Subscribe, hit like, and sign up to be notified for issue 7 on Kickstarter. Speaking of Here Comes Calico, hope everything is going well. Sounds like they are taking a week off and on vacation in Miami. I hope you're enjoying South Beach and everything is going very well. Congratulations, and I hope Here Comes Calico issue 7 is going to be a big hit. And I know a lot of people are enjoying the Takabon-sized version of Here Comes Calico in black and white. I think it's actually really smart to start spreading out and seeing if maybe the fact that an entire generation of comic book readers have transitioned over to a different size as far as their reading will make an impact. And I imagine in the long term it will. Federico de la Casa. Hey, guys. Seems like everybody, even here in Italy, talk about what Mark Miller said last time here. Seems like everybody woke up about the same problem we, the bad guys that spend real money, always said. Well, not everybody's agreed with it.
Nope.
Who was it? Rich Johnston came out and was like, listen, Image Comics could sell a #1 issue like the best of them. Like,
yeah.
What are you proving?
That guy's a tool, though. Complete tool.
Because you know, selling one single issue totally gonna bring asses in the door and put asses in the seats week to week. Absolutely, they're exactly the same fucking thing.
But it was pretty cool, Dylan.
Right now.
I don't know if you saw it, Dylan, but we had Mark Miller on the channel, and it got a lot of people talking. So I thought that was a cool moment.
Yeah, I watched some of it. It was pretty cool. Although I do disagree with his take on Clark Kent. I'll say that.
So do I.
That came out of nowhere.
I agree with him.
I should have went full Doc on him and called him a butthole.
You should have.
Listen, shit for brains.
That's too polite for Doc, Wes. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, that's way too polite for me.
But yeah, it was a cool event. It was nice having Mark on the channel again, and it was nice to see somebody actually make some real talk. And hell, people even in Italy are speaking about this thing. We got Rich Johnston writing ridiculously worded articles that are really funny. We had a funny headline from comicbook.com.
You know, that point is somewhat amazing to me, because if you look at the past, say, 6 months of what's coming out of Image and what sells big, like big, it's really only from two sources. One, it's Skybound, which is all Kirkman, like Void Rivals, which is teasing Transformers and all those things.
Yeah.
So, and the other one is anything that's coming out from Mark Miller, Big Game, Nemesis, all those titles. Those are the big titles that are doing huge.
Okay, hold on.
But they could take those things and take them out of Image, and they would still sell.
Hold on,
because of the way Image is structured, and it's independent of what Image actually does.
Hold on, you cannot put Void Rivals in there yet. You know why? Because it's done one issue. You can't put one issue.
No, this is issue number 3 is just getting ready to come out.
Number 3, that is not sustain. That is not. It has no.
Okay, Doc.
It has no trend yet. You can't do 3 issues and determine what its normal is. You
Doc,
can't.
I understand you're a little crabby today, but let's take a chill pill, man. Let's calm down. We don't have to yell about everything.
The secret to Void Rivals is once you get into it, you realize it's basically an adjunct sci-fi story that teases the Transformer universe. It's a Transformers book without saying it's a Transformers book.
Oh, I absolutely understand that, and I'm not going to predict that it's going to fail or to succeed. What I am saying is putting it on a list when the industry is built upon sequential serialized storytelling, and you only have 3 issues. It doesn't have a trend line yet.
All right, well, the 3 issues are what it is.
It's not a trend.
Oh my goodness!
Give me a year.
Got me so off track. I removed somebody. There it is. I just wish DC would stop hiring writers that hate the characters they are writing. These characters are the only reason they have a job. I don't think Chip Zdarsky hates Batman, but I don't think he appreciates Batman. I think they definitely have an issue with some certain aspects of it.
I think that there's a recent problem. Yeah, punching criminals. And that's the thing. This is where I just thought of this week when I was reading that Gotham War. The idea that everybody at DC especially has to make it like, oh, criminals are just friends we haven't met yet. They're not bad. So who is left to punch or hate? The only one left are the heroes, and that's what we keep getting. We keep getting
Well,
told that the
that's how
heroes
you end
are
up with
bad.
that super, or John Kent hugging
Yeah.
this evil
You
tyrannical
you
dictator
can't
that's
fight. So
murdered thousands
you
of
end up
people.
doing nonsense things, and really, like we've had Batman stories where he actually hugs, rioters
They're
and
just
things like that. So,
misunderstood, Jim, aren't
yeah,
they? Like me
they
and
are.
you.
They're all misunderstood because they're afraid that somebody's going to end up saying, "Well, that criminal actually might have mental issues, and that you shouldn't punch that or whatnot." So what are you left with? They end up fighting each other, but not
Yeah.
like a Civil War awesome type deal. In the way of, "Hey, Batman, we're gonna do this crime, and you're out."
One's over dumplings.
And yeah, and these writers
Have
should
a
just sit there,
compliment.
like Dylan's saying, like there's a reason why Batman's the biggest character. There's a reason why Superman, Batman, all these characters have lasted this long. It's not because people have been writing stories about how bad they are. That isn't how they got to this point. And these people, maybe they just feel handcuffed that, I want to tell my own thing, but we don't need this. It's at a point where everybody's sick of it. And you need to have some, good stuff like The World's Finest by Mark Waid. It should be the blueprint of what you at least start with.
Well, the secondary problem also, which is the primary problem, is we put so much emphasis on the writers. We don't put enough emphasis on the editors. Their job is to gatekeep, to make sure that the stories are consistent, to make sure that the writers have a good idea, to make sure that what goes to print is what people will want to buy out of a Batman comic or Superman, whatever. The editors are non-existent at this point as far as doing what they're supposed to do. And I think a lot more emphasis as we keep going down this track, the writers are basically just going to be people you've never heard of, telling stories that don't make any sense. And eventually, it's got to reach a breaking point eventually. And the editors are going to be largely to blame for it falling apart.
Debase says, why are comics so quick to end what's good and working, but slow on stopping what's bad, allowing writers to direct the IP? Yeah, man. I mean, that's what pisses me off so much about Jeremy Adams' Flash. Why would you follow him up with Cy Spurrier?
Yeah, it's about a quick buck, and who can they get to write something cheaper? That's all it is right now. It's just a money game. They're just looking at a spreadsheet and saying, who's the cheapest writer we can get that's willing to take the job? That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but without strong editorial, you end up really failing when you do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the Cohen era.
Yeah.
It's been bad for 24 months, and they haven't made any changes. Now they're finally going to. It finally got bad enough that they had to. But
it took 2 years. Where's right? Crazy.
Well, and it's not even going to happen for another year. So, my goodness. Keta says, I agree with Gabe on Venditti. Superman 78 was great, but he should be on an updated book. I would put him on a Spider-Man title, Spectacular Web, or something that's big enough title which he could get the attention that he deserves. I mean, shit, I would love to see Venditti on a Spider-Man title, obviously with Marvel. He's more of a DC guy, but he's done a little bit of Flash work, which I don't think is as good as Green Lantern, but I don't know why they just decided that he wasn't a guy that they could depend on.
If you want to use Venditti, I would swap him in and take out Williamson on Green Arrow. I'd put Venditti on Green Arrow. And then let him do that same thing that he did with Hawkman as far as building out the lore and like giving him some meat to his character, and then pair up Venditti and Adams for Green Lantern and Green Arrow again, and have that be a crossover. That I would agree.
I would have immediately put him on Hawkgirl and have him do what he did with Hawkman. End up getting a reinvention, or a redo of, and kind of pull it together than that nonsense, and then let him go from there to something else. Yeah.
Anybody would be better on Hawkgirl right now. Anybody than Jadzia Axelrod.
Even
I
Tini
gotta make
Howard.
Doc read the next issue. That thing is so terrible.
It's bad.
It is terrible.
We read the first one. You didn't read that one, did you, Dylan? You're a DC guy.
Read which issue?
Hawkgirl number 1 or 2.
Oh,
from Jadzia Axelrod.
no, I didn't. Yeah, I saw the creative team on that when that was first announced. I don't.
The art is great. The art is great. It's the writing that's terrible.
It's it's a rough read, but I don't know. The guy they put him on like these weird little niche books instead of putting him on a real character. I mean, I would have put him on. He would have been great to follow up Flash. If you wanted to go from Jeremy Adams to Venditti, okay, well that makes sense. So you can actually continue on some of the things that are going, but going in a newer direction. I guess that's more exciting. But they won't put him on a big book. Maybe he's not DC exclusive. Maybe that's why.
Maybe he's too expensive. Wes, what do you reckon? I don't know.
Well, I think he probably is too expensive. Maybe he's too expensive to put on a regular book. He can only do miniseries.
Yeah.
And maybe he's pissed off. Maybe he doesn't want to do a lot. You never know, but he should be on more.
That's another thing, Jim. It's like, so he had that Hawkman series that was going great, and everyone loved it. and it gets interrupted by You're the Villain for like 6
Yeah.
months or something
That
crazy like
ruined
that.
it.
Completely derails what he's doing. And if you're on one of the in continuity mainline titles, no matter what the character is, you are going to get sucked into all these stupid events.
Yep. Yeah. And it ends up, the momentum's gone. Your story changes. A lot of times it seems like these events come out of nowhere, too. These aren't the back in the day where things are planned for 2 years, where you're doing a story and then all of a sudden you can tell how much like, oh, crap, they must not have known this was coming or they were involved. And people get pissed off at that stuff. I mean, there are a lot of writers. I always go back to it, but I think it was Doc who told me one of the first times I was on, they should get so many of these big writers. And Doc said there aren't any big writers, number one, but nobody wants to work with them. So they got to do something. And what they're doing is grabbing all of Marvel's cast-offs right now.
Yeah. Jim's right nipple. Back again.
Yes.
In 2015, Secret Wars is the Marvel jumping off point. What's the DC equivalent? Do you think they will stop events and get back to long creator runs? I think a great jumping off point for DC Comics that's recent is Dark Knight's Death Metal.
Yeah.
Like the whole line just kind of goes to crap there, Dylan.
Yeah, I agree. That was when we had Rebirth ended and they decided that we're going to not really follow anything. We're going to have Bendis do his own big thing. We're going to have Snyder do his own big thing. We're going to have Johns do his own big thing. And then we'll just figure it out later. Like they had no direction. They had so much direction with Rebirth. Like everyone was going in the same way. We had it figured out. We had it planned. And then just it all fell apart. Things were so good with Rebirth. And then Dark Knight's Death Metal. The first Death Metal was okay. And Dark
I
Knight's
like
Death
the
Metal
tie-ins for that. That was cool. But
Yeah, it had
Death
some good
Metal is
stuff.
just bad. Like we've run out of ideas. We're now Batman's a castle.
Yeah, to me, and that was
Come on.
Heroes in Crisis was when I saw a lot of people bail from Rebirth and ended up like the face of Rebirth, Wally West, ends up being it just people bailed. But even after Death Metal, like you said, Wes, the idea where we go into Infinite Frontier, you have Joshua Williamson setting up stuff that kind of
Future
fell
State's a
apart.
great jumping off
Then
point.
yeah, and then you
God.
end up where you go into Dark Crisis. Even the stuff that happened in Night Terrors, it ends up being a little bit of that, Infinite Frontier. Oh, Justice League causes again another story about the big heroes are the ones who cause all the problems, and everybody hates them. That's how he started Infinite Frontier. If you remember, you had multiversal, Earths and going, and they're like, we're against the Earth Prime, all that. He just keeps regurgitating shit because that kind of fell apart. There was no guidance after and during Future State Beyond, and
No more
you had to let it
DC
switch.
horror themed events for at least a decade.
Yeah.
Dark Knight's Metal, Dark Knight's Death Metal. You're the Villain. What do we get? Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, Night Terrors. There's probably a couple.
Yes.
There's a Batman Nightmares story arc. Like get.
Uh-oh. I'm telling Wes is frozen. Get rid of the idea of the dark multiverse and dark amalgam characters too. Screw those.
Yeah.
Callum says on what Jim said. These writers remind me of a serial killer's mother saying, "Yes, he killed all those people, but he's a really good boy."
Yeah.
I never saw this coming.
He was
totally-
so quiet.
Yes.
Wasn't his fault. Did what he had to do. My goodness. All right, let's get into some Star Wars stuff here. We've had Ahsoka comes up, Saba TV, an independent, a company that does ratings. Say 1.2 million people viewed the first episode. Disney Plus, or Disney, I guess proper, says it was more like 14 million. I'm going to probably lean towards the independent company rather than the shills for the actual company themselves. I'm surprised this would happen. I made a video about it, Dylan, because I can understand why Andor would fail because it's kind of associated with, that sequel trilogy. Even if it's set before, A New Hope or whatever, it kind of comes out in that kind of area. People associated with it. They don't like it. They're not into Andor, but Ahsoka really spins out of Rebels and the Clone Wars and stuff that like 2 generations of Star Wars fans would have grown up with. How could it perform just as poorly as Andor?
I think it's because everyone has a bad taste in their mouth with Star Wars right now. The last
Even
season,
the youngsters.
Yeah, the last season of The Mandalorian was horrible. Kenobi was a mess. The movies are obviously really bad with the sequel
Book of Boba
trilogy.
Fett was really
Book of Boba Fett was one of the worst things I've ever seen. That was outrageously bad. But I think that's what it is. I think a lot of people, instead of associating it with Rebels or Clone Wars, there's like, oh, that's like a Mandalorian spinoff. Mandalorian was bad. This does not look good. And I think that's
the
why.
third season of Mandalorian just ends up being like the girl power like intro season.
Yes, and it's just introducing everything that they're gonna spin off. Like they did that in a little bit of season 2 and all of season 3. They're like, here's all these other characters that we're gonna show in their own show. We're gonna spin off into them, and they just kept doing that. And Dave Filoni loves bringing his characters into it at any chance he can, constantly, and he did it all throughout Mandalorian. And so I think that's why people didn't watch Ahsoka, because they're like, oh, it's just more of that thing that no one likes.
Did you watch Ahsoka?
No, I hate her as a character, and that is something that's unpopular among Star Wars fans. I know Star Wars fans love her. I think she makes
awful for the first two or three seasons of Clone Wars, and she kind of gets bearable.
Yeah, she gets more bearable, but I hate her because she's such an important character for them to just never bring up in the movies. To somehow just be like, oh yeah, this character existed. Anakin had a whole apprentice that he was emotionally attached to, then left the Jedi Order. But none of that's ever brought up in the movies, ever. There's none of that. But she existed. It's like you can't make someone that important that just never gets mentioned. I feel like she kind of breaks Star Wars. And
That's
then her
like
as a character.
why Rogue One was so good, because they killed everybody.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And I hated that, hearing about how George Lucas wanted to kill her, and Dave Filoni's like, no, and like did all he could to fight to save her, to keep her alive. It's like she should have died.
So you didn't. The big Star Wars guy didn't even jump in on this one. You read Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War, First Strike #1, but you wouldn't watch 15 minutes of Ahsoka?
Yep.
Man, you must be really fed up.
Yeah, Star Wars has been in a horrible place for a while now. Every now and again, they'll give us something to be like, hey, remember the reason you're a fan about Star Wars? But then they just keep beating
like the
dead
last
horse.
scene of Mando season 2.
Yeah.
Or the only reason I watched it was when I heard about it.
Yeah, that scene was good. The finale of Kenobi was good, even though the rest of the show was terrible. Well, other than the Riva parts, the Obi-Wan parts of the last episode were good. Yeah, Andor was good for the most part. So they give you occasionally, be like, hey, here's some good stuff. But then the overwhelming, like 90% of it is just god awful. No one at Disney knows what they're doing.
Jib, did you watch Ahsoka? You're the big Star Wars guy, right?
I have not. I have not watched any Star Wars things really since the end of Mandalorian season 2, and I ended up. I really don't have much of a connection with Star. I hate to say it, but all this stuff I'm just done with. It's just depressing to even try. No, well, back in the deal, I watched part of that, but yeah, not anything. I had never watched. I didn't watch Andor. Didn't watch. What else has come out? I even lost track of what has come out. Yeah, Bad Batch haven't watched. No, none of it.
Visions is good. Visions is good.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched, like I said, Mandalorian season 2, which I almost didn't even watch, and then I heard about the ending.
Once I heard about the last scene, I watched it.
That's what happened. That's what happened with me. But after that, I was like, okay, I think I'm done. I think I've had enough.
To it for the most part.
Yeah, kind of. Same with me. I actually had it on in the background at points, and I'm like, okay, I got
the first season was just a video game. You go and you beat the boss, and you get an armor upgrade, and then you go beat another boss, and you get a more armor upgrade. So here's the big question, Dylan. What is the worst creation in Star Wars history? Is it Zero the Hutt, or is it Ahsoka?
Ahsoka has had more of an impact, so I'd say Ahsoka. Zero was incredibly annoying, but at least we got away from Zero. I wouldn't say Ahsoka's the worst creation, but she's definitely not my favorite. I think
Zero the Hutt is the worst creation. That was like, I couldn't believe it.
No, you're wrong on both counts. The worst creation so far is Reva.
Absolutely. I haven't watched it. I have no idea.
I don't even know the name.
The third sister.
She was the Inquisitor, right?
Yes.
She was the adopted Inquisitor. But the reason I say that she is the worst character is because if you look at that entire season of Obi-Wan and you remove Reva's character from the story, it makes no difference at all. It has no change in impact of where you started, where you travel, and where you end up. If
you're all wrong
altogether, it makes no difference at all.
You're wrong. Geode is the worst character. The Rock, that's a Jedi.
That's High Republic.
Worst ever.
It's
still Star Wars. It's still Star Wars. It counts.
Dylan, is there anything High Republic that you consumed?
No, I have not. High Republic's so lame. I have not cared. It looks.
Once I saw the cover of the first comic book and the lady had the mental illness haircut, I was like, I'm out. I'm good.
I had the same reaction.
I think my least favorite character is Darth Crybaby, whatever the guy with the giant ears, whoever he is.
Kylo Ren.
That guy, yeah, Darth Crybaby. That I think is probably the worst.
You've never seen Clone Wars in a movie. You haven't seen Zero the Hutt, the most gay Hutt of all time.
So is he like
Flamboyantly gay Jabba the Hutt is what he is.
flamboyantly gay, massive goo?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not joking.
I
Real
don't. I don't need to see that. I've walked through. Never mind. That will definitely
Goo?
get you.
Yeah, we were going
That will
places.
definitely get you demonetized. Never mind.
I'd say
I mean,
Rey's the
maybe-
worst, though, for me personally.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Rey's pretty bad.
She's such a horribly written character and breaks so many things in Star Wars. I think
She's
she's
a
the worst thing in Star Wars.
Skywalker.
Yeah, she's a Palpatine. Then she
I-
claims she's a Skywalker at the end, and she gets the Ghost's approval. So
Man, that is the weirdest character though, because immediately she can just like force you, make mind force people, and next
Yeah,
thing you know, she's beating a trained Sith like in lightsaber combat, her first time ever touching it.
And what's
Oh,
so
my
insane about
goodness.
the knowing how to use the Jedi mind trick was like 30 minutes prior to that in the movie, she thought Jedi were fake in a fairy tale. How does she know how to do this? She thought they were
Nonsense.
fake. That
She's a
doesn't.
Natural.
That doesn't. Oh,
Rose
I used to love
Tico
Star
was
Wars,
annoying
guys.
as well.
oh Rose
I mean,
Tico's a
I
horrible
could,
character.
I could
That's the
almost,
good
I could
thing.
almost excuse that beginning display of her power, keying off the title, which means that the Force maybe was using her as a conduit for its own purposes, and maybe she wasn't in total control. So I could kind of make that little leap, but they didn't. Obviously, when they get to the Last Jedi, that whole thing fell apart.
Once she defeats
This-
Kylo Ren the first time, and like it was like, are
Well,
you
yeah.
kidding me? Why would you beat Darth Vader in the first movie?
But if you consider the Force as a living, breathing sort of consciousness, and maybe it was just working,
You have to
through
learn
her,
to control the
maybe
Force. That was
make that.
Luke's journey.
Yeah, it took away all tension from the next movies because she destroyed the main villain in the first
Yeah.
movie. Like, not even
OP from the
trying.
And
start.
Kylo Ren had just defeated a man that had been trained since he was a child how to fight. That's Finn's entire upbringing, his entire being has been fighting. He goes to fight Kylo Ren one-on-one, never used a lightsaber, gets butterflied like a pork chop. Rey, who lived on a despot planet, like in some junkyard, never touched a weapon in her life other than that staff thing, which we never really saw her use, picks it up and just beats the shit out of it.
Yeah, without even trying.
She had a
It
high
was-
midichlorian count. And that's what I go.
I also hated the ginger guy from.
Hux was annoying.
Oh,
yeah.
Hux. Yeah, that
He's
was
a
pretty
double
good actor,
agent.
though.
He was a double agent.
That was the worst deal.
That guy. Anybody who thought that you could do a bombing run in space, or that you
that,
could.
that was the guy that made the movie, J.J. Abrams.
Okay, fine. Or anybody that
It wasn't
thought
like
that
Hux is like, listen, we need to do a bombing run.
or anybody that thought that you could use an emergency brake like you're about to do drag racing in
Yeah.
space.
Are you making
Like
fun of Mel Brooks and
Spaceballs. Oh, very
Spaceballs?
good. Yeah, yeah.
They should have been
So,
drifting.
No, correction. The bombing run was Ryan Johnson. J.J. Abrams was the. Was the
Oh,
movie
you
before
were
that.
right. That's the beginning of
Yeah.
the second movie, not the.
I mean,
Yeah,
this may be a hot take. I'm actually more entertained by Ahsoka than I am with Andor. I mean, it's definitely flawed. It's definitely got a lot of problems, but
So you
in
love it.
terms of just like, no, I didn't say I loved it. Don't do that.
Gabe
Don't do
Hernandez
that.
from Weird Science and Comical Opinions.
Don't put
loves
him weird
Ahsoka.
science in that.
No,
The
no,
Out of 10.
guy gave
What about-
Predator a 9. What do you
Did
expect?
give Predator a
Damn
nine.
it, that always comes up. One of my biggest problems with Andor is it didn't feel like Star Wars. It
No, it
felt like a
didn't.
sci-fi drama. It didn't have any of the kind of like the whimsy and the fantasy elements that
It
made
was so
Star
dull,
Wars so
Gabe. It was
unique.
boring.
It was
and slowly
very,
paced.
horrible pacing, very
Drawn
dreary,
out.
very long out. You had subplots that went nowhere, like the security guy and his mother. That went nowhere. That had nothing to do with anything. But people love Andor. Okay, whatever. But at least Ahsoka has sort of that Star Wars feel. You know, you get the music, the production looks right, the costumes look great. So
The
there's a lot of
nostalgia
things going
kicks
for
in,
that.
huh?
Yeah, the nostalgia kicks in, and if you're a Rebels fan, and I watch Rebels, I like Rebels a lot. You get the connections there, and so that ups the entertainment value. But on the flip side, if you're not a Rebels fan, you'd be lost. This is basically Rebels season 4, and I think Filoni said that was what he's trying to do, and I think that's part of the big mistake, which is the same thing that happened on the Marvel side. Lucasfilm, in the same way that with the MCU, is they're trying to tie too much of it together directly. Like Doctor Strange 2 was a sequel to WandaVision. Like the forthcoming Marvels is a sequel to Secret Invasion and this Marvel show. So they're trying to make it all like one big cohesive thing instead of making them like side books or tangents. And so if you have no background on Rebels, you'd be lost with Ahsoka. You would have no idea what's going on or who these people are, or whether that makes sense. Now,
Rebels was a
Ahsoka as
good character watch, but there's like some filler issues or episodes in there that were bad.
Yeah.
But the overall story is pretty damn good.
Yeah, once Ezra and Kanan sort of got together as a master and apprentice, and they started going on that journey, and Kanan went blind, and all that stuff was going on, it got a lot better. It really grew on you, and especially with
Find, like the Sith, like artifacts, and
yeah, and they were talking to that giant. I don't know, I forget what you call it, the giant turtle thing that was like sort of like this entity that understood like part of the Force, and it was just this big monstrous thing that you were trying to commune with. Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff in there, but if you didn't know Rebels, you'd be lost. And that's a problem because you're having people come into the show saying, "Oh, this is sort of like a
kid's show, and this one's not a kid's show."
Yeah, and they're saying this is a continuation of Mando season 3 or Boba Fett or whatever it was. And Boba Fett was terrible. That was such a horribly misunderstood take on the character. But you're thinking that it's a continuation of that, and it's not. This is really a continuation of a mix of Rebels and a little bit of Heir to the Empire, which is the books. So if you don't have any of that background, it was a poor towards trying to tie it all together.
Live action Thrawn was wasted on this show?
Well, we haven't seen him yet.
He's not even in it yet.
I'm kind of looking forward to that. I want to be surprised by Thrawn the same way I was surprised by Cad Bane when he showed up in Mandalorian. That was a hell of an entrance. That was a fantastic entrance, and I didn't see it coming. Loved it, and I wanted to see more of it. Now they killed him off like a little punk in the finale, which was a terrible mistake. But that kind of gravity of a character that you're familiar with, even though you don't necessarily have the background for, or even if you didn't know him, his entrance was fantastic. So if they can capture that and redo that with Thrawn, who is a known character in a broader sense than Cad Bane was, then you've got something. But yeah, the biggest problems with Ahsoka is too much ties to Rebels, and the pacing is too slow during the dialogue scenes. There's too many of these long pauses where they're just looking around or they're considering what they're going to say next, and the pace drags to a crawl. They've got to fix that. The editing is just terrible.
Are we under attack? Is that what's happening, Gray?
No.
Oh.
No, people are okay. Just a few trolls.
Some people are just saying stuff. That's perfectly
just being
fine.
silly.
Yeah, I don't care.
Let's hear from the peeps, though. Callum says, I've said this a few times. Obi-Wan was the final nail for me. And from what Friday Night Tights said, nothing happens. It's validation, lots of walk. Well, Gabe Hernandez completely disagrees with you. He says this is the best Star Wars show that they've ever made.
Obi-Wan was very flawed. Obi-Wan was very flawed. There were just way too many inconsistencies from the prior films. Just like the beginning Star Wars films, there's just too many inconsistencies. And again, that Reva character added nothing. If you take her out, it actually, if you take her out and replace her with the Grand Inquisitor, it becomes a better story.
No doubt.
Which is exactly the opposite of what you're trying to do.
I'm just
Jim's right nipple. I love Ahsoka. I grew up with Rebels and Clone Wars, but after Episode 9 and the things that I've heard about Mando and Boba Fett, my love for Star Wars is low. I think he's saying he loves Ahsoka the character, but he didn't check out the show.
Yeah, like I was saying, I think there's a lot of people that was affected by recent Star Wars, where even though they like Ahsoka, they're like, I don't care to check this out. It's just more of what we've been getting.
So I like
Boba Fett and Mando
and Rebels, and I clearly like Ahsoka more than you, but I never considered it.
It's funny though, because everybody's kind of like low on Star Wars, and then Ahsoka, it's not going to be that jumping back on point for a lot of people, even if they do like the character like you, Wes. They need something big. They need something that's a general big thing that everybody can go back on. Like
movie.
Yeah, a really good movie. Mandalorian actually got a lot of people, the first season got a lot of people pumped up, but then they realized I just need that one season. I don't need to go forward, and everything from that kind of went downhill.
It's such an outlier.
Yeah. And so with it was Baby Yoda was why a lot of people, and I say that as a joke, but the idea a lot of people jumped on, but they do need a really good movie is what they need.
Don't be dead naming Grogu, okay?
I'm sorry, Grogu. Shout out, Grogu. All right,
trying to get us in trouble.
Fucking nerds.
I'm telling you, everybody who talked to me is like, I want to see that Baby Yoda. And I just kept quiet. I'm like, go see your Baby Yoda.
His name's Grogu.
I know.
His name's Baby Yoda.
I think of Rogu from American Dad when I see here Grogu.
I think of Wagyu.
Go
Go ahead.
On, Eric O'Sullivan, the Sultan of Soup himself, we need to stop dead naming Star Wars. It's now Disney's safe space. The Force is female. You bigots. Satire. Sorry, I don't watch Disney Plus content. I watch Disney Plus content. I'm watching Home Improvement. And I'm watching City Primeval.
Yes, Justified.
Justified, yes.
Yeah.
There's still some stuff there.
You can watch that on Hulu too.
We don't have Hulu here. I think that's why we have all the Hulu content as well in the Philippines.
Ah,
I believe that's how it works. But yeah, most of the good stuff on Disney Plus is old. I think that's a big problem. Caleb says, but it makes me question, do you think Jon Favreau is doing this on purpose despite Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, or is Filoni venting his male white guilt? I don't think Jon Favreau probably has anything to do with any of this stuff anymore. But I think Filoni might be a pansy.
Definitely.
Like, he's one of those guys that should have, like, never done an interview.
I think
You know what I
Filoni
mean?
might be one of those guys that just wants to keep working, so he just goes along with whatever the hell the current.
No, I
Thing
don't
is-
think that's who Filoni is at all. I think he buys into the Force's female stuff, the way he speaks. He's like less obnoxious Pablo Hidalgo when he talks.
Yeah.
That guy kind of goes out of his way to make himself look like an asshole. Jim's right nipple. You need to get away from the Skywalker saga. Well, that ain't gonna happen. They're making a solo Rey movie, Rey Skywalker.
Who has a falcon in the background?
Who's got a kitten? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kitten.
Is that's your cat, Dylan?
No, I'm hearing that like through my headset right now.
It's got to be Gabe's. He's like out in
No.
the whole,
It's not
No.
me.
that's not
No,
a
nothing
cat.
here.
It's an eagle. It's definitely a bird of prey.
Yes, it's definitely a bird.
Yes.
I
Somebody,
just want him to put his right nipple away.
yeah,
I kind of disagree with Jim's right nipple here a little bit, simply because if you go back and look at, let's talk about the Mandalorian. If you look at the Mandalorian, what were the big popular things that kind of got everybody's attention? It was
Luke Skywalker at the end of season
It was
2.
Grogu, and it was a de-aged,
Baby Yoda.
Luke Skywalker,
Baby Yoda.
and Baby Yoda. No dead naming here.
Baby Yoda.
It was
That
Baby
is his
Yoda.
name.
And it was Baby Yoda and Luke Skywalker. If you had said coming out of like season 2, where they did that training, they had several episodes where they were just doing training on that tropical island or tropical planet, whatever. They said we're going to do a new. It's like Luke and Grogu or something like that. I bet you there would be people lining up for that one because people still love Luke Skywalker. They still love the concept of this, Arthurian legend where you have this boy who becomes the kind of the ruler or the great hero that saves everyone. People still love that stuff, and they're not tapping into it. They keep trying to invent characters to focus on instead of focusing on the characters with their journey, and they're not creating those journeys, and it's not catching.
Yeah, I think the more Disney moves away from it because they have such a poor vision for Star Wars, the more they start poisoning other timelines. So unless they have competent leadership, they probably shouldn't be straying too far, to be completely honest. Tommy's reviews. Lucas was the one that had the idea of Anakin having a Padawan to Filoni. I bet Lucas regrets it. Clone Wars miniseries is better than the animated show. I bet he does regret it because obviously the character should have died. I mean, you got a point there, Dylan.
Yeah, definitely. That was his idea. And Filoni's talked about how he fought to save Ahsoka, but now she breaks everything. It doesn't matter. And we have 200 Jedi that survived Order 66. And it's just everything's coming undone and nothing makes sense.
That seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, there's
lot,
also
a lot.
like people keep calling her a Jedi even though she's not a Jedi. Like no one even knows what to say she is. She quit. She's a quitter. That's what she is, right?
Yeah, but she did the right thing.
Yeah, of course she did. Caleb says token Black Inquisitor and Lizzo. Yeah, he's not even bashing Jack Black. I assume this is the Mandalorian season 3 thing, right?
Yeah, Lizzo and Jack Black play a couple, and
That was-
that
that
is
was
so
terrible.
bad. It was
It's
horrible.
terrible.
Keta says today Star Wars is not cool. That's the biggest problem. It is not cool.
Mm-mm.
That's why no one cared. Caleb says there's a rumor that a character from the game Force Unleashed, which is Legends, might be in the series, which if true, I will be very angry. So I'm assuming that's Kyle Katarn, Dylan?
No, that's not Kyle Katarn. That's the Star Killer
Yeah,
stuff.
that's
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. Kyle Katarn would be cool. I wish they
Kyle
bring him
Katarn
back.
would be really cool, actually.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite Legends
Star
character.
Killer, that's Luke's original name.
Yep.
That's right.
It's like when they reused the original concept for the Wookiee to be the one dude in Rebels.
I mean, they're trying to set it up. They're trying to set up the identity of Marek, who's the guy that's with the full face mask who you can't see, is somebody else. But if that's supposed to be some kind of mystery they're playing up, they're not doing a good job.
It's Galen Marek Starkiller. There you go. Very nice. Because it'll prove that they're just nitpicking from Legends because the actor's name was in the credits and he voiced Darth Maul. The guy that voiced Darth Maul, that's what's that?
Sam Witwer.
Sam Witwer.
Yeah. Hey, I almost got there. I able to recall that one. So he's the one that's playing him?
He's doing a voice, but it's not confirmed whose voice it is.
Oh, but he's the one physically playing the character because it's live action.
We don't know who's playing the physical character because he never sees his face.
He says it's in the credits. The same way it works. There you go. We'll see what happens. I imagine it'll be a big thing, and they were hoping that it'll do what Luke did to Mando season 2. I imagine. Daniel Beatty, imagine Luke teaching Finn to be a Jedi.
Would have been a lot more interesting than what we got.
Imagine Luke teaching anybody. He didn't even really teach Rey how to be a Jedi. She just kind of kicked his ass with a stick.
He told her not to be a Jedi.
Yeah, he told her to quit. He threw the thing away. He told her to fuck off.
And he burned the text.
He burned the whole temple, and he drank weird milk. So that was, and then he just watched her beat up a rock from like sitting on top of a hill. Yeah. That's not a lot of fucking
alien titty milk was really the worst part of all of it. Very
nothing about it was good. There was
you
no
don't even
teaching.
like Star Wars.
I liked Star Wars.
Think Star Wars was good.
I liked the original movies just fine.
Yeah.
I liked episode 3 all right. 1 and 2 I thought were eminently mediocre, if not bad. I've hated 7 was just 4 again.
But really bad.
But with dumber plot logic.
We got you, Doc. You like the good stuff.
The only one that I thought was 3 or 4, 5, 6, Rogue One, and parts of 3 were good. That's it. Everything else is trash. Well, go ahead. Fuck it.
Jose your Beast. In Floated View, anyone can survive a lightsaber. That was a weird creative decision.
That's Disney Star Wars. That's not just Filoni. Reva got stabbed by Vader twice in the gut and survives in Kenobi. She got stabbed once when she was a child, comes back, gets stabbed again as an adult, same spot. You think Vader would be smart enough to just slash her head off or something, but no.
Cut her head off.
First time I saw someone take a lightsaber strike, their entire body disappeared. That's how powerful it was.
Yep. Not anymore. Now your hate can hold you together. And apparently, even if you don't hate, you can stay alive as well. So
if you're female, you'll survive a lightsaber. Also, the Obi-Wan writer admitted he didn't know anything about the token actress, just played victim.
There you go.
Maybe the writer did say that. Maybe that is how you survive a lightsaber. Although Finn did survive a lightsaber, he got butterflied like a pork chop, right?
Yeah, that was very convenient. He just the very end of the lightsaber barely touched him.
Ruined his jacket. That was the worst part because it was a pretty dope leather jacket he had too.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe the best bit of wardrobe in that movie. Jim's right nipple. Is there any franchise out there that's a decent substitute for Star Wars? Old Star Wars. I mean,
maybe Guardians of the Galaxy for some people.
It's not really a franchise. It's only 3 movies.
No,
I think you want something
movies.
bigger. I think people want to pretend Dune is Star Wars, but it's not.
Yes, no.
There's certainly a lot of stuff like Star Trek related, but
Top Gun Maverick. That's the best Star Wars movie in years.
Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious. That's your.
I knew
your
I'd get Doc there.
Yep.
I mean, nothing in recent memory. I mean, you'd either have to go back to the original Star Trek series, or the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine to have to go through
That's
those.
the good thing about
And then-
Star Trek is you can go through the TV shows and it is a lot of content.
I
especially
thought
there's
you were
some
going to
really good
say
ones.
it puts you to sleep, so it's good at night.
Oh, come on, don't do
No,
that.
what are you talking about?
And another one that doesn't get enough play, but I think really stands up, especially over time, is Babylon 5.
And that
Oh,
one just got a new season, right?
They got they did a cartoon movie or something.
Yeah, okay.
That just
They got
came out.
something.
Yeah.
J. Michael Straczynski do it?
There you go. If you want something
Yeah.
that's a good substitute for Star Wars, go back and watch Battlestar Galactica. They actually had a lot of
Yeah.
comic books that
Yeah,
tied into that.
That's
too.
a good one.
And it was
From
actually
the Sci-Fi
pretty good.
Channel. Sci-Fi Channel did that.
Yeah. There's I believe a movie that sets it all up. So that was a really good one actually.
Miniseries. Or are you talking about the original?
No, I'm talking about the reboot, but the way I've
Yeah.
seen it, it's a movie. It
Oh,
wasn't a
okay.
Yeah, they
miniseries.
Yeah, it was-
combined it into a movie.
They did
Yeah.
like two 2-hour movies, and then they did the series after that. The last
That is
like,
really
three
good.
seasons?
Yeah.
4 seasons, something like that.
And then there's a couple of spin-off shows, but none of them ever really worked.
No.
Eric O'Sullivan, Disney Star Wars is just content and a lifestyle brand now. It's the opposite of mythology. Classic Star Wars is eternal. Disney Plus is forgettable and of the moment.
See, what's interesting is a lot of this conversation is about Star Wars. Well, we're talking about Star Wars, which is the topic. But honestly, it's the same problem with Star Wars as it is for Marvel, as it is for DC, as it is for a lot of the mainstream comic publishers. Is they're looking at these. Let's take Batman. They're looking at Batman as a brand, not necessarily a character who's a person with traits and qualities and goes through this journey of his life, even though that life is uncharacteristically long because he's like 80 years old now, or whatever year he is. DC doesn't treat Batman like a person, like a character who has this lore mythology. They're treating him like a brand. And that's why you're having a lot of the problems that you're having in, because all they're doing is saying, just write a story. It doesn't matter. As long as he's got the ears and the cape and he's not killing anybody, you're good. Just go do whatever. There's too much of this mentality of corporatizing and treating these content like brand representation instead of storytelling. And that's the big thing that's missing in a lot of the stuff we talk about.
Yeah.
Very good. Keta says, Part 1 on Disney Plus. I recently watched Amazing Spider-Man. That movie is very underrated. I think it's one of the best superhero movies in the last 20 years. I agree that it's underrated, and I think it's got the best version of Peter Parker. Maybe not the best version of Spider-Man, but I think that version of Peter Parker was really good.
I completely disagree. I think Andrew Garfield was finally the right Spider-Man, but he was the least believable Peter Parker. He is way too fucking cool to be Peter Parker. That's the problem.
Peter was only not cool for like 40 issues, and then he was cool again.
Yes, but this was an origin movie. He
was like 30 years old.
I know he was 30 years old, but he was still in fucking high school.
Wow. It's hard to believe Andrew Garfield was in high school, though.
Yes, I know, but it was set in high school. You have to.
And when he whips Gwen Stacy on the ass and then spins her around, oh, that's pretty dope. That's how you do it, bro.
He was the, because Tobey Maguire was a bad Spider-Man. He was a good Peter Parker because he was a nerd and he was kind of awkward. But he never was able to let that side and actually be cool but annoying as Spider-Man. Whereas Andrew Garfield managed to do it as Spider-Man. He was way too fucking cool. Peter Parker should not be skateboarding.
That's right. I agree with Doc. I gotta say, I agree.
I don't know. The worst thing about that movie is Lizard.
Yeah, his plan to turn everyone else into a lizard was not the best plot.
At least it wasn't another goblin.
It wasn't Spider-Man 2, I'll tell you that. That's the better Spider-Man movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but
Rate
Lizard's
X7
always been. Yeah, go ahead.
Rate X7. Star Wars won't win fans back until they fix mistakes with the sequel trilogy by retconning parts of those films and by making those films non-canon. I think people would come back if they just did a good movie.
Sorry.
Yeah, good movie.
I don't think people are going to hold it against and be like, I refuse to go and see this amazeballs Star Wars movie that everyone loves. It's got a great cast and characters that I care about because you refuse to not make Rey Skywalker canon. Uncanon Rey Skywalker. I don't think people are like that.
Okay, I think this is one that I can probably really comment on because I lost my love of Star Wars when Episode 1 came out. I realized that it's not for me anymore. It's not like they can't recapture that magic. So I lost my love of Star Wars. Now, when a good Star Wars product comes out, I'll watch it, I'll consume it, and I'll move on for it. But I've ever since Episode 1, my brain will not allow me to emotionally bond with that franchise, and I think that's what we've lost with Disney Star Wars. A lot of people with Disney Star Wars, any sort of chance of an emotional bond to the Star Wars brand and name and everything else, that ship is fucking sailed. It's not coming back.
Star Wars shirts. I still watch the original movies.
But you're not like, for those that you've lost, where they still like Star Wars, but they broke that emotional attachment to it with the sequel trilogy and with the Disneyfication of Star Wars. You're not going to get it back because we know that we're just waiting for Disney to pull the rug out from under us again. So we won't allow ourselves to emotionally connect with the Star Wars brand anymore because we know we're setting ourselves up for heartache.
What Disney needs to do, they need a notebook, old school Star Wars fans, get you into the theater for this great Star Wars movie, and then next thing you know, you got notebooks and you're loving it again. No one else has been notebooked? Gabe, you had to have gotten notebooked, right?
Yeah.
When your girlfriend brings you over and she makes you watch the Notebook and then you realize you like the movie?
I've never seen that movie.
Man, you should check it out, man. It's great.
I have never seen that movie either, and I'm perfectly happy
because you guys are heartless pricks.
Yes.
Well, I've seen a lot of movies. I'm sort of with Doc on this, for better or worse, in that I don't see a path forward to getting Star Wars fans back or recapturing that magic with the current sequel trilogy continuing forward. I think the only chance you've got is you got to let I'm Ray Skywalker. You got to let it end right there, be done with it, and then if you want to recreate in that same universe, you have to create great movies. But it is a new family. Forget about the Skywalkers. Skywalkers are done. Better or worse, they're done. Move on and either go back to the old Republic, or tell a side story with a new family emerging from the Force, or something else. But the Skywalker bloodline, I think, is done. And if you try and continue that and try to keep forcing it and trying to course correct out of that, you're starting from a foundation of sand. And you're not going to be able to move forward with that, with the current people making the same decisions, making the same bad decisions. So if you want to recapture Star Wars magic, you either have to start a new dynasty with a new family, or go back to like the old Republic or something like that people understand and just want to see brought to life.
But they need a kick-ass movie. It can't be on TV.
And I'm fully with Wes.
But that goes without saying.
Yeah, great movie. And the thing that would be, when Wes, you end up getting a hold of me and tell me that your kids are outside playing Star Wars, like they're running around with sticks and stuff and doing that, then I'll know that they've actually gotten back to that, because I don't know who these movies are for. They're really not for the kids, and no kid would watch them and get that excited, I would think.
Nah, nothing cool going on. Kenneth follows up talking about The Amazing Spider-Man. It's a grounded, realistic, street-level superhero movie. This is what Spider-Man should be, street level. If it was rated R, I might have liked it more. That's why my comic book will be. We need rated R Spider-Man?
I don't know if we need rated R Spider-Man, although Marvel Knights Spider-Man wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But no, I think that you could do a very, very good PG-13 Spider-Man, and I think the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, the first movie, I liked it. I didn't like him. I didn't like him as really Peter. Yeah, it was Jamie Foxx's Electro. Sorry, that's not Electro. That's, I don't know what the fuck it
Tim
is.
Burton. Tim Burton, a villain.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're onto something there. That's not Electro, and it doesn't feel like Electro. It's a wholly new character for that movie, and calling it Electro just disconnected all the Spider-Man evangelists from it.
And all
That's
the
why it
Green
died.
Goblin setup wasn't very good either. I think Day Dawn was a really bad choice.
And that came out of nowhere too. There was no motivation behind it. You never got Norman Osborn behind it to make it make sense. That was just jammed in there for no reason.
Death of Gwen Stacy looked right though.
Yeah, that was handled well.
Not a good film. I don't know. Do we need a rated R Spider-Man movie? I'm not really sure. But we are getting a rated R Wolverine movie. That's what we do need. Eric O'Sullivan, evolve and elevate the iconic brand, shifting the tone. The pre-existing customers, fan base are out of touch. Executive Vice President of Marketing of Bud Light said this. Our pop culture was the proving ground for that. So we're the ones that are out of touch. We don't realize how much we should like it. It's really...
Okay.
It's not,
I'm out of touch. Fuck them.
I am out of touch with Star Wars. I didn't even touch Ahsoka. It's a character I like.
Hey, look, I will be perfectly out of touch. They can be well in touch with broke communists, well out of touch with people with money. I'm sorry, you're still creating commercial product.
Grateful Dog, recommendations for the best, the must-read best Star Wars Legends comics. Oh my goodness. The trilogy of Boba Fett. Dylan knows what I'm talking about. He's the one that recommended it to me, right, Dylan?
Yeah, there's a nice omnibus that you can get for that, for like all the Boba Fett stories for the Legends. I'd suggest that from Dark Horse. It's got a lot of cool stories in there. Boba fights Vader and actually makes sense. It's actually really well written. Yeah, that's a good collection to pick up.
Then Heir to the Empire. The
Dark
Thrawn
Empire.
trilogy, the original one was really good. Well, I guess it's not called Thrawn trilogy. The remake is.
But that's not a comic, the Thrawn trilogy.
Are you talking about Heir to the Empire?
Jody Hauser wrote.
Hauser.
It was called Thrawn.
Jody Hauser sucks too.
Yeah, but that was not really Star Wars Legends. Dylan, you're the Star Wars comic book guy. You've recommended me all this good stuff. There's also an Rogue Squadron. That's a really good series, but that one's really long. There's like 2 omnibuses.
Yeah. I was gonna say the what I just said, the Boba Fett omnibus from Dark Horse that you can get. I'd say that's what I'd recommend. That gives you some good Star Wars content. It's got a lot of really cool stuff. Then you'll be sad at the end because you'll be like, oh, they never expanded upon any of this, and none of this means anything anymore. But still a great story to read.
Certainly would have been a better starting point for that book of Boba Fett. Also, John Jackson Miller, the guy that does Comic-Con, wrote like it's not Knights of the Old Republic, but it's set in like the Old Republic, right? Anyone remember that one? That was a pretty decent one too. I read all that stuff too. But man, it sucks when you get old and you read so many comic books, Jim.
It does suck. It just sucks getting old. I mean,
Yeah.
comic books are just the bonus suck.
Tommy reviews pickups for me recently were The Phantom Stranger, Batman Animated Adventures, and Immortal Hulk Omnibus. Hulk has over 1,600 pages. And that's some great Joe Bennett art in there too. Probably get all the covers from Alex Ross. Man, hope you enjoyed that one. I liked Immortal Hulk all the way up to about issue number 23, and then it kind of falls off for me.
Yeah. You didn't get to 25, the Mind Bender.
I got to 25, and that's when it really died.
Yeah.
I waited it out, and he went to the future.
I had problems. I think me and you are the only ones who will at least admit that we didn't love Immortal Hulk.
I love Immortal Hulk
yeah.
up until issue 23.
Well, there you go. I mean, it was a 50-issue deal. So you're like me saying I love Star Wars now.
Yeah, once you get to issue 25.
You're right, though. You actually are right. It actually was really, really good before that. But yeah, I fell off as well.
I think the last time I really liked the Hulk run would have been Bruce Jones.
You need to read the Philip Kennedy Johnson
Yeah,
Hulk
it's
doc.
good.
Yeah,
It's like really good. The art by Nick Klein is absolutely breathtaking. It's a horror comic again. He's just a monster.
It's horror, yeah.
That one's absolutely fantastic. Kenneth says, Doc, I kind of agree with you on Garfield and Amazing Spider-Man. He was too cool as Peter, loved his Spider-Man. Same with Toby.
In fact, he says he agrees with me 100%. That's weird. Weird.
I like the way you changed that way.
You always have this problem with these 3 little words. Doc
is an
was
asshole.
right.
Nah,
Doc is an asshole is 4 words.
no. In Missouri, is a word. You know what I'm saying?
Is a
Oh man, Kenneth, don't try to make me say stuff like that. You know it hurts. Go say to Beast, Disney needs to stop having activists write their stories and act. Example: Star Wars acolyte cast don't know what Star Wars is. As a Star Wars fan, hope is dangerous. Dylan, everything I've heard about the acolyte sounds like it's the worst Star Wars thing ever.
It does not sound good. The showrunner looks like they picked the worst person they possibly could. I personally don't care if the cast knows about Star Wars or not. I care about the writers and the showrunner.
Right, yeah.
Cast can be whatever. If they doesn't matter. But yeah, the people that are actually making the creative decisions for the show should like the property.
Yeah. It sounds amazing. It sounds so bad I'll probably actually check it out just because you know what I mean? I'm somewhat curious.
Yeah.
Like, can it be that bad?
Yeah.
It could. It could be amazingly bad. Sometimes things are so bad that you can't. It's like a car wreck. You can't turn away. Nerd says, "I wish one day you guys would do an alternate comic stream. They have solid books and talk about what can be done to make indies viable competitors to the big two in the eyes of the readers."
We had Peter.
So I used to
Samedi
talk
on in the
about
past.
alternate comics all the time. I've had Peter Samedi on the channel once or twice, but then when they stopped going through Diamond and having them distributed that way, I couldn't actually get alternate comics anymore unless I wanted to order them like through a Kickstarter or whatever. And then the shipping is like $50, so I haven't been able to read alternate comics in like 3.5 years.
Yeah,
I support alternate.
when they left Diamond, my local, it was still when I was reading new comics. I had all their stuff on my pull list, and that was just a blanket to my LCS. But when they left Diamond, they stopped getting them, and I stopped getting them as a result. So,
But
I've reached out to Alterna as far as like, do you do review copies? Do you do press kits, that sort of thing for putting up on the site and promotion? He said, no, we don't even do that anymore. So the only way you get a comic is you have to go out, you have to find it, you have to buy it, you have to order it, and you have to ship it. And so timing is everything in kind of what we do. So that makes it very difficult.
But I'm a big fan of Peter, and I'm a big I was a big supporter of alternate comics until I really couldn't get my hands on them anymore, and they weren't. It wasn't financially feasible for me to do that anymore. But I wish him all the luck, and it sounds like he's doing good, and they've got their own model now that's working for him. So I think that's awesome. And I like newsprint. I like the price point, and they have some really good stuff. He also says it's sad that there are only two supports for building called comics. One that's don't compete with each other. I imagine he's talking about the tent poles of DC and Marvel.
I assume that's what he meant. I'm a little confused on the statement here.
Yeah, it is. It's sad.
But everything does run through them. So
And that is not the fault of Marvel and DC. It is the fault of all the other publishers for not getting good enough, drawing an audience. Image had the opportunity in the early 90s. They had the opportunity again in the early 2000s. They squandered it both times.
There we go. He also says they do digital. Yeah. Very nice. If you're interested, I definitely suggest that. There's a lot of really good stuff from Alternative. I know they've had some weird issues where people would get mad at him or whatever, but whatever, man. Peter does his thing. He's a good guy. Definitely love to have him back on the channel.
Yules in the comment section. Comic shops don't charge shipping if you walk in.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, my shop in Manila would order them for me, and they would all show up, and then I would just pay the flat shipping fee that I paid for all my books.
What do you mean, Wes? You don't want to fly to the States to buy comics every week?
No, I don't. In fact,
you got to respect Yule's hustle. Yule's hustling. He's doing.
I know. I absolutely love it.
There's only one city in this entire country that has comic shops. That's Manila, and I don't live there. Otherwise, I would be there every week. Absolutely, I'd be there a couple times a week. That's what I do. I love
Yule's hustle because he sold me a book this week.
Oh yeah, Yule's the best. Even though if he has terrible taste in Spider-Man, potential love interest. Wraith X7, have you guys seen Netflix's One Piece? I have not. My wife is very interested in it. I know Gabe has seen at least a portion of it, and so has Gray.
Yep. I was
Yeah.
I was impressed with the first episode from the perspective of it basically was a reproduction. It was a live action reproduction of the manga and the anime. I mean, they had to shortcut a lot to fit with.
Was it Cowboy Bebop?
No,
No.
not even remotely close. It was
Thank
fairly
goodness.
authentic and respectful of the source material, which is
So
exactly
they-
what we want.
So they learned a lesson.
Amazing, right,
Yeah.
Doc?
Apparently.
Okay. Hey, look. I mean, for those out there that like One Piece, and assuming this is correct, and they stay learning that lesson, go and support it. Teach these idiot Hollywood and studios and publishers the lesson of, hey, look, we will make your shit fail when it deviates from what we want, and we will make it succeed when you give us what we want, you dumb fucks.
I'm assuming that it's going to do very, very well. Kalichi Oki says, don't think it's that hard to write Catwoman. Just use Ballot, Cook, or even Winnick as a base. She's not the most complicated character. She's not a complicated character. But would you want her to be a big-time girl boss that can kick Batman's ass? Then it kind of muddies the water.
This is as poorly thought out as when... Who was
talking
it?
about the
Was
guy's
it-
comment?
was it? No. The idea of making Catwoman a girl boss is as poorly thought out as when Dan Slott did the same thing with Black Cat.
Well, yeah, it's stupid. Ramby was doing a good job. You want her to be a girl boss? Put her in Alleytown. She becomes the Empress of Alleytown. Cool. She's got her spot. But once you start putting her up against some of these villains, it doesn't really work out. She's not a foil for Joker.
No. She's better as a mentor for other, younger characters like
He's a
herself
thorn in
than
the side
taking
of
on Batman.
that he has a love interest in.
Exactly.
There's a little fling there.
Little friction, not overall war.
They want her to be bigger than she is. And, she's a jewel thief in a universe of deadly villains.
Yep.
It is what it is. All right. Jose Debase, thanks to Wes and Doc's Worst of the Week, I avoided bad comics the last 2 weeks and have been dollar bid diving. Been enjoying it. Jeff John's Flash. You were very welcome.
You're very welcome.
Doc deserved it too. Just
Wes tortures me for your amusement.
I do, and I think it's it's apropos. We had you last 2 weeks were Night Terrors books, Doc.
Yeah, and this week
Night Terrors
it's
Punchline. Yeah.
This week it's Miss Marvel, the New Mutant #1.
Well, you can tell it's not written by a comic book writer, so that's the good thing, I guess.
That actually might have made it marginally better.
Yeah. Oh, I'm certain that it is, but yeah, Jeff John's Flash run is not like a bad thing to be fine in your dollar bin. You know what I mean? Put that bad boy together. That's fun. Kenneth says, Wes, I said Doc was mostly correct. Not
Nope.
Doc is always mostly correct. For comics,
Right.
I recommend nothing. The well is dry for me, at least. No hero villain fights either. No inspiration today. Next time, have a good weekend, gents. If you're looking for inspiration, Drew and I will have a best comics of the week. We've only got 4 comic books to talk about, but they're 4 really good comic books. But this wasn't the greatest week ever. And Doc is not always right. He wasn't even right in that instance, most likely.
I was right.
You
I was definitely right.
Nah, probably not. But thank you so much for the support of the channel, Kenneth. Hope we have some inspiration, and we always enjoy the hero fights and the villain fights. Those are always good things. I expected to get through another topic today, but that is not going to happen. We are at the end of the road. Daddy needs his chicken nuggies, and I still have to get prepared for the video recording with Drew for Best of the Week. But I do want to say thank you very much to everybody for joining me. I think we had a fun panel. Doc had a conniption fit a couple times, but he reeled it back in, and we all had a lot of good times talking about Batman, DC Comics, Star Wars, Ahsoka. Big time shout out to my boy Dylan from the Real Comic Book Gamer. Hadn't seen you in a few months. Glad to have you back, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, dude. It was a good time. It's always fun.
Are you recommending any comic books this week, or are you taking a week off?
For this week, Incredible Hulk #3 was amazing. I'm really enjoying it. I enjoyed pretty much everything Philip Kennedy Johnson's doing as of late, and he's doing great with Incredible Hulk. So that would be my recommendation for this week. And it didn't come out this week, but it's an ongoing right now. Is Tenement from Jeff Lemire. I'm enjoying that. It's it's part of his Bone Orchard mythos, which is like a horror book. And if you liked like Gideon Falls, his previous horror book, then you'll like this. It's really cool what he's doing right now. And of course, it's got Andrea Sorrentino on art, which is just beautiful. So
great.
Those are my
Man,
recommendations.
if people are big fans of yours, or maybe they didn't know that you streamed all the time, what are you streaming lately?
I've been streaming Counter-Strike, so yeah, that's what I've been streaming lately, mainly. And
are you winning?
Generally, yes, but some days are better than others. Counter-Strike and actually Madden, got back into Madden for the first time in a while, so
very nice.
Getting fun and frustrating.
Very good. Definitely check that out. There is a link to his YouTube channel in the video description below. Love having Dylan back here. We've also got Gray from, is it across the pond? If I'm in the Philippines and you're in Japan, it's just like a little bit of ocean between us.
Yeah. It's a stone throw away. Maybe. Whereas I wish it was closer. Could come over and visit.
Anytime you want to come visit, we'd love to have you. We might be going up to Japan in the next few years. The boys do want to go to Super Nintendo World.
Oh yeah, hope so.
That's the big thing that they want. Are you recommending any comic books?
I am. Whereas I'm recommending Titan Comics Conan the Barbarian issue 2, Jim Zub and Roberto De La Torre killing it on the art. Also, where is it? Blade issue 2. That surprised me with its sexiness and its just coolness. Very good. I like what Hill's doing on that. The art's pretty good. And what else? There's one more. Yeah, Incredible Hulk issue 3, which doesn't feel like a Hulk comic, but it's so good and it's beautifully drawn. As Eric O'Sullivan was pointing out in the comments, it's great. It's great to see hand drawn onomatopoeia. Try and say that when you're drunk.
Yeah, the Nick Klein art is absolutely fantastic. I was a little worried when he was leaving Thor to go to Hulk. I said,
yeah,
he's like a Thor guy. He's the Viking artist, and then he absolutely pulled it off. Jim's right nipple manga recommendation: Dinosaur Sanctuary. If you want to see cool dinos and get some dino education too, it's about zookeepers taking care of a dino zoo and then their daily struggles. That sounds like a manga, Jim.
It is, and I haven't read it. Actually, my right nipple actually told me to read it a couple weeks ago, and I haven't gotten to it. So I'll probably get to that.
That sounds pretty good. It definitely has the manga feels to it. Definitely enjoy the manga. I got Doc to read that one manga, but he hasn't
gone there.
All right, Jim, are you recommending any comic books this week, or are you just recommending people give up altogether?
I might recommend giving up altogether if I went with DC, but they had an annuals week, so not much out from them, and some of it was garbage. But I'm going to go Blade number 2 and Incredible Hulk number 3. Those will be my deal. I haven't recommended a Marvel book in quite some time, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, check out those. That's about it.
Absolutely. All right, Gabe, you recommend anything?
Of course. But before I do the recommendations, I got to get the shameless plugs in. Please follow Comical Opinions on all the socials. Same thing with Weird Science DC Comics, Weird Science Marvel Comics. The Comical Opinions YouTube channel is back on the air. So every Monday, we're putting out video versions of our weekly newsletter. So please hop on over there and give us a follow. And I'm taking audio versions of the video newsletter and publishing it as a podcast on all your podcast platforms. So if you look us up on Audible, Google, Apple Podcasts, everywhere, you're going to hear the audio version of the weekly newsletter. So please give us a follow, like, comment, subscribe, all the blah, blah, blah stuff. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. There's no excuse not to hear what we're talking about. As far as recommendations, I'm going to go echo most of the group here. Incredible Hulk number 3. It's a good mix of Marvel superheroes and horror and a seamless blend, and I liked it a lot. Conan the Barbarian number 2 from Titan. That is back to old school Conan. Violence, gore, sexiness, you get it all. And the third one I'm going to recommend that I think we got some good positive vibe about is Hunt, Kill, Repeat number 6 from Mad Cave Studios. It's basically Zeus and the Olympian gods take over the world, and issue 6 ends the first arc where Artemis comes into a final confrontation against Zeus, and it was a really, really well-written, well-done series. So if you like that urban fantasy type of comic, that I'd recommend Hunt, Kill, Repeat number 6 from Mad Cave. That's it.
Very nice. I have 4 recommendations I'm going to give in my video. You guys have covered 3 of them, but you didn't hit one, and I'm pretty surprised about it, especially that Dylan didn't hit it. But that's all good. You might have noticed Doc left. That is because Doc's lunch arrived, and he didn't want it to get cold. He said he's going to post pictures of the comic books he was going to recommend, which are all going to be old, onto his Twitter feed. So if you want to go find Doc's Twitter, and you can see the pictures of what he was going to recommend. I want to say thank you very much to everybody for joining me on Saturday. Got another video later. Got the doc review tomorrow. And some interesting stuff coming up. And really appreciate everything. And we'll see you next Saturday. And Daddy's